The first thing I ought to say is I will try to tell this fairly, although clearly I will always have the last word, luckily. But I will try quite hard not to paint too sympathetic a portrait of myself. This is pretty much, I think, how it happened. And to help me remember, there are these. Maybe a slightly creepy way of keeping a diary, keeping items in transparent plastic bags, but surprisingly effective in bottling the past. Inside, some of the objects that seemed important at the time to help remember that particular day. Some very obvious, like this bag from around the middle of what happened. In it, a faded colour supplement. We made the cover, a science detective story, a tale of greed, deception, jealousy, and a touch of hate in the unlikely setting of the chemistry department of a northern university. A little sensational, of course. Actually, it's even better than that. The first one I'm going to use is from the day I knew there was a good chance I was going to be terminated. A cinema ticket? I have no idea why that is here. Sometimes one keeps the wrong things, obviously. There's nothing to suggest Joanna here, for instance. But this is right. A handkerchief with a few specks of blood and 2 perfectly preserved ginger biscuits.
Oh, you're still here?
I haven't been in yet, but then I've only been waiting 55 minutes.
Oh, that's nothing. Anyway, if you'd been in quick, that might have been ominous. Don't eat all the biscuits.
No, today I can gorge myself. You'd never dare keep you waiting.
I hope that's true.
I thought someone had made off with the biscuits. Have you dressed up for him, Albie? New shoes?
Yes, and that was a mistake. They're bloody painful.
He probably wants to see you about something very routine, don't worry.
No, bad news always comes on Wednesdays.
Actually, I have something in my room that you may enjoy. Help distract you a little better than the biscuits. I'll go and see if it's still there.
Thank you, anything would help.
Don't be so nervous. We'd have to ask you to take extremely early retirement, and the last paper wasn't too bad, was it?
What do you mean, the last paper? I've only published 2 in 7 years. Have you got any advice?
Just agree with everything he says. He's a vain old man.
You couldn't put in a word for me.
I already have. 2 words. Albie's useful. No, I've done what I can. I talked to him.
Eleanor, thank you.
This is Joanna.
Hi.
She is in your room.
Joanna is a history graduate, and she's braved this department because she needs to check a few scientific facts for her PhD. Dr. Golfar will help you. He's much better at this kind of thing than I am.
Maybe this is not exactly the moment, Albie.
If this is not a good time...
Well, no, this is a terrific time. Couldn't be better.
Have to get on. Good luck, Al. I'll be back to see how the interview's gone.
Goodness, I've got to get on too. Just offer to tidy up his office, Albie, if all else fails. It'll be fine. Super.
Super.
No, you should try to get some time with her. She's a very distinguished lady.
Is she?
She taught me. She's marvellous.
Your friends seem very sure you'd have a lot more time to spare than him.
It's the truth, I do. Christopher's very good. He's published a lot.
And you?
Actually, there's a strong chance that I'm about to be sacked.
What? Now?
Yeah, any moment. So what's your thesis on, Joanna?
The impact of the invention of detergent on public health.
Well, that's a good idea.
You're kidding.
No, it's good. History of how washing has changed. It's quite a sexy subject. Sanitation, poverty, whether people live or die.
Why did they think you'd automatically have time for me? You usually have time for young female graduates, is that it?
Is it that obvious?
Albert?
Here we go.
It's okay. Go on. The history of detergent can wait.
Did I tell you I was giving up this job?
No.
I'm becoming inactive emeritus professor. Wonderful title, isn't it? Inactive. Thank God. This will be in a few weeks.
As soon as that?
Yes. Who do you think should succeed me? And I want to feel you're being honest, Albert. How about Christopher?
Christopher, certainly, that makes a lot of sense. An obvious choice.
Yes, but... Come on, Albert, tell me.
Well, the only question is, will he be off soon? He's working in a high-profile area. Is this too small a pond for him.
Yes. And now, Eleanor.
Of course, Eleanor should get it if she wants it. Her record is unchallengeable, clearly, her great reputation.
But? Come on, but?
She's deep in her work, of course. The only question is, would she really like it? But if she does...
I know all about Eleanor. We go back a long time.
We should advertise. We could go outside.
Take too long. The situation is too urgent. I want you to do it, Albert.
I don't think you can mean that.
Why?
Because my reputation compared to the others, my track record is a little thin.
Certainly there's no distinction there, a modest record. In fact, sometimes I seriously doubt you're a true scientist at all. No, you're something much more valuable, much rarer. A born administrator.
Well, I've been doing a little admin for you,
It comes effortlessly to you. We've had buckets full of distinction with me being here. And look where it's got us. The department is profoundly unfashionable. It will always exist, of course, because of its history. But it needs somebody who can reinvent it. The Vice-Chancellor agrees with me. I hope you're not going to refuse, Albert. I don't think that would be particularly wise.
Oh, no, I'm not refusing.
The official announcement will be made tomorrow. That will be all, Albert.
Are you going to tell them? Eleanor and Christopher, explain it to them.
Me? Certainly not. You start doing everything as from now.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, you're still here.
Just had to know what happened. Are you still here?
It's not that simple. I can't tell you yet. Sometimes when things get complicated, I get a nosebleed. Oh, it's just a few specks, really.
You see, he's out already. I told you it wouldn't be long.
Blood? Oh, Albert, it's not that bad, is it?
No, I'm okay. Brownhill is leaving.
At last. I don't believe it. Where's he going?
Almost immediately. Now, nobody say this is a joke, okay? But he's recommending, for some reason, God knows why, but he's arranged to give his job to me.
Albie, he didn't.
Jesus. No.
Yes. Amazing, isn't it?
For once, you've really surprised me.
You're surprised. I want to say right from the start, it's purely for administrative reasons. They want the true creative minds to be free, unencumbered, for their research. Say something.
I think it's possibly a very sensible move. Good.
Well, we'll have to make appointments to see Al.
Albie, head of department. Don't worry, we understand. There's no problem. You'll make a very satisfactory professor, I'm sure.
Yes, Eleanor's right. It could be very useful. You're much better suited to all that admin than I am. You see, you were wrong about Wednesdays.
No, I'm not so sure. It's a bloody nightmare. And so now we come to these. Paper strips. They look quite innocent, like paper chains, but they were a considerable mistake.
Oh, I thought there was about to be a meeting.
There is a meeting. I was just leaving. It was a little hot in here, so I took off my shoes and... Mr. Golfer has been kind enough to glance at some of my work. My research.
Professor Golfer. I'm sorry. Thought seeing somebody like you here, there couldn't be a meeting.
Somebody like me?
A visitor from outside the department. I work with Dr. Lathwell, and we've been asked to attend a meeting at precisely 2 o'clock. It's now 2:02. Eleanor, Dr. Brickman, has also been asked. They're both very busy people.
Of course, I'll be as quick as I can.
Oh, I thought there was a meeting.
Oh.
I was just explaining, I'm not here. I'm really not here.
Oh, that's a delightful surprise. There is no meeting. The meeting's been cancelled. I can get back.
No, there is a meeting. Joanna was just on the point of leaving.
Don't worry, I'm out of here. Thank you for your time, Professor Golfer. It's been very useful.
Why did you need to see us, Al?
Okay, I would prefer this to be more relaxed, but still, Jesus, this is not exactly easy for me. Okay, you see these strips?
Strips.
If you're red, Eleanor, and Christopher's green...
I'm a red paper strip.
Yes, just for today. And we look at the chart over the last 2 years at the amount of teaching the red and green strips have done.
I don't need to look at any chart to know that, Albie.
No. We have a priceless asset in the two of you, your great reputation, Eleanor. So, in order to attract more students in the future, which we must do, I would very much like you to teach more, to do more bread and butter lectures, to have a little more red here and green there.
The answer's no, Albie. I've always taught once a week for the last 25 years.
There are other priorities, Al. The answer has to be no.
And there's the room.
The room?
I was just wondering, Eleanor, if there was any chance, because we need to enlarge the computer room, of having a corner, a fragment of the space you occupy.
From my lab? No, Albie, that is not open to negotiation.
Not open. Okay, I get the idea.
Al, I'm drawing up a list of other things I think you can help us with, OK? I'm sure you'll agree to them. Come on, Barbara.
There's no need to try so hard, Albie. There's not such a hurry.
No, you're right, Eleanor.
Of course I am. There we are, then. Super. I ought to tell you, my work's reaching a very important stage.
Of course, Eleanor.
So you understand the situation. There must be no mention again about changing my arrangements at all.
I promise, Eleanor, an absolute promise. There's one condition.
Which is?
You let me get you out of your lab for one evening.
No, I don't think so.
We could celebrate your birthday.
And if I do come, I'm free of your interference. Forever.
Yes. One milkshake. The glass still stained with apricot flavour. A trifle caramelised now. A little lipstick visible on the straw. This is our trip downtown. An equation, possibly, begins to form.
Trust a group of scientists to be the last people to try out virtual reality.
It's flying. High-speed flying. I seem to be in the cockpit of something doing several thousand miles an hour. Oh, you know I hate flying. Oh.
Well, you wanted a surprise.
Yeah.
What would you like to see if this machine could show you anything?
Well, anything.
Yeah, you know, like playing back your first sexual experience.
Oh, I see.
Or an even better idea.
Even better?
Yes, enter other people's past and be able to move around there without being spotted, seeing all the things they haven't been telling you, whom they really slept with and when, how they actually behave.
Oh, that's nice, yeah.
It'd be tremendous to go into your past, Eleanor. Be there as a witness when you were working with the old monsters, doing your great work with Barker Wyatt.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind being able to go back and watch you bossing them all around.
They always call me the female prodigy. Like something out of Dickens.
Did you go on picnics?
Picnics?
Yeah. You know, I always imagine boffins on picnics with their bicycles lying around in heaps and you all playing cricket with hard-boiled eggs. As you talk brilliant science.
Yes, you're right. We did have our picnics. They talked and I sunbathed a few yards away.
Oh, I'd love to have seen that.
What if this could show you the future? If you could put a coin in it and it'd show you yourself in a few years' time for 5 minutes, what would you see?
Oh, that old chestnut.
Yes, what will happen to us three?
No thanks.
4, of course. I said 4.
Like hell you did.
I'll be in exactly the same place, no doubt, wearing the same clothes.
That sounds right. I'll be busting around the department, still trying to get its name changed.
I hope I'll be doing something original and provocative and earning money. Christopher?
I'm not telling.
Oh,
come on.
cheat.
You mean you know? If you're not telling, you must know.
I'd like not to be here, but I probably will be.
Ah, something's brewing. No, nothing's visible. The future cannot be glimpsed tonight. You know, if you gave me the cupboard room, Eleanor, that little bit of your lab I need for the extension, we'd probably have room for one of these at work. Could nip in for a quick fix at tea time.
I wish you hadn't said that, Albie. Don't start talking about that now. Understand?
It was just a joke.
No, it wasn't. So that's the point of this evening, isn't it?
What do you mean, the point?
The point, Albie, to get me relaxed, soften me up, isn't that the current expression? So you can start persuading me to give up some of my lab space. That's the true agenda of this evening.
Of course it's not.
I will not have you interfering.
No, I promised you I wouldn't, okay? You got to believe me. Oh, shit, this is getting messy. One of those moments you want the ground to swallow you up. I don't want your birthday spoiled.
Well, if you've forgotten your plans, I've forgotten what just happened. But that better be the case.
Yes, of course. Come on, Joanna, we'll bring the car around. Give a moment for things to cool. I want this to be such a good evening. Erase the last few minutes, please. They never happened.
Dear Albie, he still needs house training.
He means well. He's in awe of you, Eleanor, of course. Always has been. He'll never cause us any problems. What's more, it may cease to matter.
Oh, yes? That sounds nice and mysterious.
Something I've been working on for quite a while. I'm not saying any more now, but just remember, you heard it here first.
So, we come to what should be one of the most momentous bags of all. But in fact, there is only a half-empty tin of barley sugars and a fragment of a child's drawing. There were tiny hints that something was about to break.
Don't you need to get back to work?
I've got 5 minutes. When it happened, I was deep in paperwork, naturally. I wish I'd been able to keep Barbara's sneakers. I will always connect that moment with her new, incredibly clean sneakers.
Have you heard?
Heard what?
I thought Christopher was coming here to tell you. You really haven't heard?
No, we can do this all afternoon if you like. What is it?
If you haven't heard, I don't think I can tell you yet. No, I've got to tell you, I can't stop myself. He's done it. He's made it work. He's done the sun battery.
No. I didn't know he was near something that big.
Yes. I've got to get back. Isn't it wonderful? He's almost ready to show you. You'll be called.
That sounds promising. I like the name, the sun battery. How important is it?
We've got to remember everything about today. What the weather was like, what we're wearing.
Al, explain it to me in words of not more than one syllable. Make me understand.
Right, well, it's easy to keep it simple. Fossil fuel is going to run out, right?
I can understand that.
There is an almost unlimited supply of water.
I can understand that too.
Water contains hydrogen, but how to get it out? Find the right chemical to act as a catalyst, shine a light, a beam, above all, the sun, and you can create hydrogen out of sunlight and water. Hydrogen which will run planes, cars, anything you want. And when you burn it, it will turn back into water, polluting nothing. People have been trying to do this for years.
I'll remember what I'm wearing.
Eleanor, do you see it?
Yes, absolutely. This is good.
The particles have an electrodeposited coating. It's only a few nanometers thick, so refractive index matching makes it possible.
Yes, it certainly seems to have a high quantum yield.
I can't understand any of that, but I saw the light hit the water and it made it happen. It's great to be one of the first in the world to see it. I'm getting goosebumps.
It does work, Christopher. It's beautiful.
Well done. Didn't think this would happen in my lifetime. Thank you for showing it to me. Super.
Is that all? Doesn't she want to see it again?
She's pleased. That is Eleanor being over the moon.
Do you want to see any more?
No, I want to be alone with Christopher now, please. Quickly, if you could. Sorry to bundle you out. We must be alone. You bastard. You've done it. I knew you'd do something big. Let's compute what this means. The department is secure, obviously, for the rest of time. Millions will be coming in here. Millions for you too, of course. The Nobel Prize, naturally.
Come on, Al. It may not be that big. It's got to be proved to be economic.
I'm allowed to do this today of all days. That's what I'm here for. When are you going to publish?
Well, I'm going to make a straight announcement first. Look, we've achieved it.
What, before you've published?
I'll invite Briskin and Moisevich over from Oxford to inspect it as a precaution. And then I will announce it immediately to the world press. When the patent is through, I'll publish.
Christopher, don't you think you should wait till then and let others repeat the experiment?
What is this, El? I've done it, for Christ's sake. Why the caution? I owe it to the university to show we're first.
What do I know? I'm sorry.
You've helped, you know, Al.
No, that's a lie, quite clearly.
No, you've helped by just being there.
So, now we come to the child's drawing.
Ladies and gentlemen, please. I think we're just about ready
The
to
hacks
begin.
gather, Charlie. Even the weather is in sympathy.
Wonderful day, sir.
I will
In
read
every
it,
sense.
and then you can ask questions. I have an announcement to make.
You're not going in there?
Not yet, no.
There's a real sense of going forward again, isn't there, sir? I've seen all the greats we've had here, sir. And as soon as I got to know Dr. Christopher, I knew he was most likely one of them.
Those have been my feelings too, Charlie. Oh, I'm sorry, you want to listen. Why don't you go in there? It's okay, go on, I'll guard the cafeteria.
Can I, sir? Oh, good. It's something not to be missed, isn't it?
Shalane, what are you doing? Why aren't you in there?
Just came out for a breath of fresh air. Well, why are you here?
Oh, press conferences make me nervous.
Have you managed to hear any of it, Al?
He's doing fine. Your whole life is changing in there.
No, don't say that.
He need never do anything ever again, Shalane, you realise?
Well, of course he will. He must. But to wake up every morning knowing that you've achieved whatever happens now, I mean, you've done one of the most important things for goodness knows how long, by the time you're 41. You've always thought that Chris had it in him to do something special, haven't you?
Yes, I did.
So have I. And I've always loved him more than I can say. It seems the morning to say it, however obvious it might be.
That's where you are.
We just popped out for a minute.
He's handling it jolly well. I think they realise how important it is.
Oh, they must. Even my 7-year-old daughter does. I brought along a picture she's done to show Christopher. This is the rainforest, and all the animals being rescued by Christopher's non-polluting battery.
Oh, touching. You must show it to Christopher. They've finished. Great. It's all done.
Yes, the story's about to go round the world. There's no going back now.
Now stop it. He thinks our lives are changing forever. Maybe they are. And maybe that's good. Let's get in there. Come on, everybody.
Yes, super. I'm coming. You too, Al. Come on.
Yes, I'm coming.
You've put your daughter's picture away. Why? I thought you were going to show it to Christopher. Al, what's troubling you?
I can't work out how he's done it. I want Christopher to be right, for God's sake. I want this to be a wonderful day. I really do. It's only I can't see how he's done it.
If it was a fake. Jesus, a fraud.
That is certainly not what has happened. That word must not be used.
It'd be amazing, though, if it was happening. What a story.
No, Joanna. More information. I'm sure that's all it needs. To squeeze a little more information out of him. Somehow. Things become nocturnal now. A tin of baking powder. It would be fair to say this is one of the more important tins of my life. As well as nocturnal, we get a little subterranean.
I don't know what you're doing this sleuthing for anyway. What are you expecting to find? That Christopher did something here?
I'm not expecting to find anything. My doubts are almost certainly groundless. It just keeps me away from more admin.
And what am I doing here?
Oh, you just can't stop coming back for more.
Not here, Al. For Christ's sake, it's dangerous.
Well, not while you're with me.
Sure.
Oh.
I didn't know it was you.
Eleanor, your music's playing. You should still be in your lab.
I was taking a short break when I heard some rather strange noises.
I was just checking there's nothing dangerous amongst all the junk that's been dumped here.
The professor of the department needs to do that.
Well, what do you think I'm doing? Keeping an eye on you? Eleanor never goes home. Or more accurately, she's never seen to go home.
I suppose I am usually either in the lab or else stalking the passages.
Ask her what work she's doing.
What work are you doing?
Well, part of that is confidential.
You see, she's secretive as well.
I'm only partly secretive.
Makes all the difference. Tell me what it is, the work. It's only us here. Come on, tell me now, tell me.
When I'm ready and not before. You will be among the first to know.
Will I? I'll try to be patient.
Just think, with this breakthrough, we'll be able to rip all these passages out anyway. Rebuild. I might even get an extra room.
Oh, so you don't object to profiting from the commercial exploitation of Christopher's work, then?
Oh, don't be silly. I'm not that much of a Puritan. You think I'm daft? I'll tuck into what we're going to get just like everyone else. It's a splendid time.
Yeah, I've never talked to her like that before. She was really happy tonight, so I got away with it. Sometimes she still treats me as if I'm 19.
Sometimes I think you're in love with her.
Well, I'm fascinated by her, I admit. The way she speaks, her supers, her barley sugars, her arrogance, her scrupulousness, her ability. Her smell even.
Her smell?
Yeah, you're transported straight back to the 50s. It's almost as if she's bottled it like the leather seats of a classic car. It's addictive. I can remember those smells from my childhood. She wears scent in the lab. It's wonderful. But she's still a real force. Still a great lady. And soon we will see the fruits of all her work.
It's really strange to see among all these old chemicals a tin of baking powder.
Baking powder? Where's the baking powder?
Where's the baking powder? There, with some bleach. What's the matter?
Bleach. Oh, shit, yes.
What's the matter, Al? Why is that bad? Tell me, I hate not understanding.
This will sound mad, but one of the ways of faking the sun battery would be to use baking powder and bleach. With calcium hydride, you could fake the whole thing.
But I mean, he wouldn't drop the evidence in here, preserving it for you to poke around and find. He'd destroy it.
I'm not sure you're right about that. In a funny way, this is where I put it too, among the other scientific equipment. That way you're not admitting anything. Even to yourself.
Al, you don't really believe he's faked it, do you?
I don't know. I really don't. But any doubts are serious. Yeah, this is the one area of human activity where cheating still matters. It means your career is switched off, just like that. The thoughts are ridiculous, they must be. But they keep coming back.
So, Albert, you think there's something wrong with the sun battery?
I think there is a chance the results are suspect.
A fraud would be appalling, naturally. But you can negotiate with him.
Negotiate? How can I do that?
Let him know you may have doubts. If they are founded in any way, you can negotiate a retraction. The results no longer conclusive, etc., etc. But if you're right, he must retract. You cannot just wait and see.
I can't deal with this. He's a close friend. What do I say to him? Excuse me, Chris. Have you perpetrated one of the biggest scientific frauds of the last 50 years? Oh, really? You might have. Fine. Let's negotiate.
It's a difficult situation, Albert, I realise. But actually, I think you're rather better qualified to deal with it than most.
Oh, really? In what way?
You have a curiosity about people which I, for one, completely lack. I cannot deal with their messiness, their contradictions, but I think you enjoy all that. And unlike me, you are not a jealous person. I'm afraid I've always been surprisingly jealous of my colleagues, Eleanor, many others. Since you've asked my advice, Albert, I'll give you some. Hesitate, and you might be finished. On the other hand, do something and you may prosper.
Barbara, good Lord, what's all that for?
It's the picnic. You haven't forgotten, have you?
The picnic? Oh, no.
We're all bringing things for it. Haven't you got something?
Yes, of course. Somewhere. I think I brought a couple of tins of corned beef.
You certainly splashed out, didn't you? You wanted to see me?
Yeah. Have you been enjoying the last few weeks, Barbara?
Of course. It's been the most exciting time of my life.
You sure?
Am I sure? What do you mean by that?
So you're not troubled by anything?
What sort of thing did you have in mind?
Irregularities in the work?
No.
No. Just like that, no. I don't really think making a solemn appeal to your duty as a scientist will work with you, Barbara.
But you're going to do it anyway.
I'll just point out that you've been working very closely with Christopher. It's natural for you to blot things out that you might have seen that don't quite fit. When you came running in to tell the news in your new sneakers that morning, so excited, was that tinged with anything? Any doubts? Were you thinking, if I shout it loud enough, it will make it true?
We were all excited that day, I seem to remember.
Yes. You're very able, Barbara, I know that. Ambitious in a good way. If there's to be any unpleasantness...
Unpleasantness?
There is no need for you to be involved. Your career could quite easily be unscathed.
Oh, I've hardly got much of a career to scathe.
You will have. So...
There's nothing to tell.
I need to know the truth, Barbara. I don't care what it is, as long as I know.
You must ask Christopher. It is his work.
Of course. Is that all, Barbara?
Yes. Yes. I have a little yellow notebook with a rose on the front. It looks like a child's diary.
Yes.
I made a few notes of my own. I'll go over those again, just in case. I will reread them in the light of what you've said.
You don't look as if you're ready.
Oh, you haven't forgotten, Al, have you?
No. I have a tin of Spam somewhere. No, I'm by myself. 2 tins of corned beef.
Al, we're honoured.
Yeah. I need to have a word with Christopher.
Fine. What is it?
Oh, no, I need to make a time, an appointment with you.
An appointment? That's very formal. It might be a little difficult because we're going to the States first thing in the morning.
What, so soon? For how long?
Couple of months. There's so much interest in him. He's going initially just for some exploratory talks.
I'll help you get these things into the car while they talk. I can smell the cheeses from here. They'll probably set alarms off, they're so strong.
Right, OK. If we must. Don't you dare keep him long, Al, please.
Oh, they've forgotten the fruit.
What is it, Al?
Since you made your announcement to the press, everything's gone at such a speed.
Yes.
You don't think anything could have been overlooked?
What do you think I've overlooked, Al?
No, I don't think you've overlooked anything. I just want to know if there's the slightest possibility that something might have been missed.
Well, you'll have to be more specific.
I mean, there aren't any inconsistencies, anything that could have been fudged.
Fudged? You're not suggesting I've been cheating, Al?
I know.
You are, aren't you? Almost. You little bugger.
No, I just want to be sure. This little bugger just wants to be absolutely sure.
Al, there's absolutely nothing that can be produced to shake the results in any way. Nothing. Not even in a plastic bag.
Right, of course. I'm sorry to have mentioned anything.
No, you had to probe. You were doing your job, I understand.
Look at them. They've started eating the food. Al, you're eating the picnic.
Oh,
He's been interrogating me. That always makes people hungry.
Interrogating you today? What on earth for?
I just needed reassurance.
And did you get it?
Yes. At least I hope he did. You mustn't worry, Al. These are great days.
Yes, I know. Great days.
Are we late? Hope we're not late.
Looking at Al, I don't think we can be.
Why is everybody dressed up? It's only a picnic.
Oh, it's a celebration, too. It's important to do these things properly.
Eleanor, can I...
It's the least he deserves.
And I hope it's the day you decide we're going on holiday together.
You and me? Together? Of course. Eleanor.
Come on, everybody. Let's get out of here before the weather changes. Barbara, have you got the camera? Have you remembered?
Oh, yes. I'm going to be official photographer. There are going to be some great pictures.
Of this historic feast.
I think I might even allow myself to catch some sun today. My skin will get the shock of its life. Alfie, you ready?
Nearly. I'm still looking for my corned beef. I must find it.
Oh, Al, you're incorrigible.
I really don't think we need 2 tins of Spam somehow, Al.
Eleanor. Did you get my note?
Yes. It's one of the most shocking things I've ever read.
Is that what you think?
What possible reason do you think Christopher would have for doing something so idiotic?
I don't know. Fame, perhaps.
Rubbish. Don't be so banal. That is truly banal.
Well, people do strange things for celebrity now.
Oh, come on, for goodness sake.
Competition, then. He heard somebody else was getting closer.
Nonsense. We both know at the moment there's no one else anywhere near the sun battery.
We can't be sure about that, clearly. Oh, money. There's so much at stake, the money.
Explain to me how Christopher planned to make money out of this, if it's a fake. That is just such sloppy thinking.
But something's happened. I asked him directly. I had to ask him just now, and I didn't believe him, and that makes things very difficult.
Albie, calm down, please.
So what do I do then, Eleanor?
You do nothing.
Nothing? But I think Barbara is going to talk to me about what has occurred. If I get evidence...
You still do nothing.
What? Even if I get evidence?
I don't think that's remotely likely. And any evidence will be challengeable. But even then, yes.
What?
Yes. If, and I don't believe there is an if, but if anything inexplicable has occurred, it has happened with us knowing Christopher is very, very close. The notes he's let us see indicate there's definitely new work there. By the time he feels it right to publish, it'll be very clear how he's done it. And the people round the world who are waiting right now to reproduce the experiment will be able to do so and applaud his achievement.
Eleanor, are you saying if he hasn't done it, at least he's near, so it doesn't matter if he's forged the results?
You are saying he hasn't done it. I'm saying I know he's near.
For Christ's sake, if we start thinking like that, everything goes, doesn't it? Everything we believe in. One can announce I've discovered a cure for all forms of cancer, or AIDS, or I've saved the world from a new killer bacteria. I truly have. Well, almost. In fact, what I should have said is I nearly have, except I've cheated. I've forged a few results along the way. In fact, it's all a fake.
I'm not saying that, Albie, and you know I'm not.
No?
I'm saying there are things here you don't understand.
That's true.
And by giving them time, they'll clarify themselves.
You are saying ignore it, even if I have evidence. I can't believe you're arguing that, Eleanor. You've spent your whole life setting standards, being an example to others.
I've spent my whole life resisting obvious explanations because they are inevitably wrong. I've had to learn the importance of waiting.
It's a con. Don't you realise an idea that sounds so pure, sunlight and water, is a con? He's used baking powder, for Christ's sake. It's as crude as that, as sleazy as that.
I don't believe it. That is totally impossible. Quite impossible. That certainly hasn't happened. Albie, I'm telling you, this is not the time to intervene. There will be a professional and scientific explanation of that, I am certain.
Will there?
I'm convinced there will be. But if you blunder in now with your flair for popularising things, you will generate all kinds of media coverage, naturally, and that will have a devastating effect on Christopher's reputation.
And if it comes out I have prior knowledge of the deception?
There has been no deception,
If
Albie.
it comes out I had proof and did nothing?
Yes.
Then the whole department is finished. That doesn't matter?
I don't think you have a choice, Albie. Do you understand the situation better now?
Yes. You're forbidding me from doing anything.
Don't be silly, Albie. How can I forbid you? I'm telling you, from all my experience, from everything I've learnt, I'm telling you, you must not act. You must not do it. You're going to listen?
Yes.
Good. That's good. Come on then, chip chop, we've a picnic to attend. You can go in my car.
No, I just need a moment to see to something. I'll drive myself, I know where it is.
Okay. Right. Super. See you under the trees.
Jesus.
I knew you'd still be here. You're not going to the picnic, are you?
What? no, I can't.
And we're not going away together.
What?
Well, that couldn't be clearer. I was stupid to expect anything else, wasn't I? Thought so. I'll have to settle for this, whatever this is. Sometimes I think you're only interested in me because we met on the day you became professor. I'm really just a memento and we'll end up in a plastic bag. Come on, Al, what's the matter? Since you're obviously not thinking about me at all.
No. Eleanor was no help.
You told her about Christopher?
Yes. The most scrupulous person I've ever known, the great Eleanor. And she told me to do nothing.
She probably needs a little time to take it all in.
No. No, that is not what is happening.
By the way, Barbara gave me this little notebook. Where is it? A little thing with a rose on it. Here. She asked me to give it to you. She said you'd understand.
Yes. I was expecting it. It's evidence. She will have written what she saw. I can't ignore this.
It's difficult, of course, for you, Al, but you did a piece of detective work and you came up with a result.
I wasn't expecting to. I really didn't want to be right. I still don't know why it's happened. It's like I've put the pieces of the jigsaw together and I'm staring at it now and I don't know what it shows. Except Christopher's finished. However it's presented to the world, whatever euphemism is used, he's finished. But I don't know why it's happened. What do I keep from here, from this bloody morning, the day of the celebratory picnic? What lousy little thing shall I keep? So I remember exactly what it was like. I wish somebody would rumble me. Tap me on the shoulder and say, OK, that's it. We know you're pint-sized. You're here by accident. We'll take care of it from now on. You've done enough. Rumble me. Come on, for Christ's sake, rumble me. Somewhere in the intervening 4 years, I'd graduated to bigger bags. So what do we have? A fistful of press cuttings and a fork, pinched from the Garrick Club. I was very busy, hectic days, and in the middle of it all, I kept on getting invited by that old villain Brownhill for lunch at his club.
You won't recognise him.
Won't I? I haven't been away that long.
He struts. And God, does he work. Not real work, of course, mostly admin. But he beavers away.
Well, he's always beavered.
Everybody finds Albert useful. I was right. You know he gives these little talks on the radio now.
He doesn't. What about?
Oh, yes, before the news in the morning. Only 5 minutes, mind you. There you are, Albert. I was just saying, one can't open a newspaper or switch on the radio without hearing your voice.
Rubbish, William. You exaggerate. Hello, Joanna.
Hi, Al.
Hi.
I didn't realise we weren't going to be alone.
I'll explain later. You look wonderful.
Well, you certainly look successful, Al.
Do I? You look so different, Joanna.
He's written a book, too. Beware of the experts. Crude but effective, pandering to the young. It's selling really well, of course.
You never sent me a copy.
I hope you've kept all afternoon for me. Say you have, please. It's important.
That depends.
You're marvellously brown. How did you get to look like this in New York in the winter? Is this how you look all the time?
Oh, no, this is just for you, Albert, of course. Have you done fraud by any chance in one of your 5-minute talks?
A scientific fraud? No.
No?
Oh, you mean Christopher. There have been endless articles by all sorts of riffraff, most of them with awful titles, like the baking powder fraud, colour supplement stuff.
But not by me, and not about why it happened, which is the important question nobody's bothered yet to ask.
I can tell you what happened with Christopher.
You can?
It's quite simple. He wanted to lie his way to the top, because deep down he knew he wasn't good enough.
Christopher was not a non-entity.
He had a humble background. He was desperate to succeed.
That is not true. You want to play this game, solve the mystery, then you have to get your bloody facts right. Christopher's the son of a country doctor. As it happens, a very happy childhood. The solution doesn't lie there, I assure you.
Maybe not, Albert. You're the authority on people, after all. But the result's the same, isn't it? I've said my piece. Now I must relieve myself. You will excuse me, my dear. Soon you will have the benefit of our gruesome cuisine, overcooked beyond belief. I hope you're not too hungry.
Oh, thank God he's gone for a moment. He hates everything, doesn't he? He even hates the food.
Yeah, for some reason he doesn't hate me, which is worrying. So, here we are, Joanna. Both pretty okay.
Yeah, that's right.
How's the job?
I can't believe it. A question about my work. It's good. I'm working as a publicist now. We concentrate on the arts. Publishing. Maybe we'll be handling your books.
I'm sure.
You want something, Al. What is it?
I didn't want to say this in front of the professor.
Say what?
I may be going to see Christopher very soon. First time since next week at the university, and I want you to come with me.
Why? This is surely something you've got to do on your own.
No, I want you to be there. It's important. I'm going to put the pieces back together before my luck runs out. It's bound to be difficult, mission impossible maybe, but I can do it. Christopher's very practical. I think he sees me as somebody who, in fact, contained the storm, who didn't call in professionals to break the fraud, but handled it myself. And I need your advice really badly.
Thank you.
Hi, Eleanor.
Hello, stranger. What brings you here?
I'm not sure. I mean, Al is here. He wanted me to come. I'm sorry, I'm glad to be here.
No need to apologise. We're delighted to see you, aren't we, Charlie?
Delighted.
I'm not disturbing you.
No, this is my custard break. The most attractive man I've ever met so far. Happened over a shared bowl of custard. It's always been a very sexy substance for me.
No, I'm surprised.
So, where's Albie?
He's just coming any moment. He's been rushing around visiting people.
We haven't seen him for a while. He's been very occupied, I believe, with his articles, his books, his talks.
He has fought for the department, though, hasn't he? Protected it.
Yes, well, that's what he's there for.
Managed to limit the damage after the occurrence.
Charlie always refers to it as the occurrence.
Yes. And the occurrence is over now. What the effects, I'm sure they are.
Christopher's meant to be coming, isn't he?
Well, if Albie's here, I doubt it. One never knows. Christopher travels a lot. His arrangements change.
And how are things here?
Good, very good. That was delicious. Oh, goodness. So there he is already.
What's he doing? Oh, don't go. He's coming to see you.
I know, I'm not avoiding him, I promise. But my custard break's over. And Albie's much better faced in the morning. It's always been the case.
Oh, I thought for a moment...
She had to go. She's looking forward to seeing you in the morning.
No.
What's that grunt mean?
One moment, I just need to... some of my old papers, just checking, just refreshing.
What is this? What's so important suddenly? Tonight, before night, she starts playing the mad professor. Al!
Just one moment, please.
Oh, sod it. If he ever notices I've gone, I'll be in the bar.
Forgotten how to do this. It's been so long, I have to stick my tongue out to concentrate. Joanna?
She went?
She went. Oh, that helps for a moment. Do you believe in the eureka moment, Charlie?
Oh, I'm not sure I've ever seen one, sir.
No, nor have I, till now. This is not, strictly speaking, a eureka moment, but this is the nearest I'll ever get to a eureka moment. Let me see if it works again. It's to do with garbage, extracting workable fuel, a form of petrol from household waste that you can run vehicles on. It's not quite as big an idea as the sun battery, but it could be very important. Maybe. Give me that ladle, Charlie. Now, if these beans are the raw material, one would have to grind it. Then they're mixed with water containing the catalyst, the vital rhodium catalyst, and then... Do you see the shape? The shape, Charlie. It is, of course, around the mushy peas that it's still unclear. It is incomplete. If I put in a lot of work around the mushy peas, Charlie, it will become clearer. It will be achieved.
That sounds fantastic.
It could be fantastic. It's funny. When the place is coming to an end, this happens.
Coming to an end?
Oh, you won't be affected, Charlie, but I may no longer have to concern myself with this place. The weight is lifted. I plan to involve the others with this idea, of course.
Dr. Christopher and Dr. Eleanor?
Yes, form a unit with them somewhere else. It'll be a powerful setup. This is real work, Charlie, for a change. I'm trying to get it into a presentable form for tomorrow so they can give their comments. Eleanor's a very tough judge, of course. Being able to hear her music, it's like you can sense her thought process. It's as if we're working in unison for the first time.
I don't think I've ever been in here before. Eleanor never encouraged visitors.
No.
She'll be here, won't she?
I saw her earlier today. We had an orange juice together. She doesn't change. Al!
Christopher.
Nice tie.
Well, it's a reunion tie. For this reunion.
Hello, Joanna.
Hi.
Yes, hello. Have you had your hair tinted, Al? I think you have.
It must be the sun.
Yeah, I hear it's been a good spring in England. For once.
Yes, so far. We're not going to talk about the weather, are we?
In Japan, I was browsing in a bookshop when suddenly your perky face was staring back at me. It was your book, Beware of the Experts, in Japanese.
Christopher, did you find an envelope pushed under your door this morning?
I might have done.
So, what do you think of the idea? What do you really think?
Fuel out of household garbage. You want my honest opinion?
Yes.
I think it has possibilities.
Really? You do?
Yes. It's a sketch at the moment, of course.
Oh, yes. I will type it up properly, represent it.
But it is a genuinely good idea.
I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to form a unit to help develop the idea, and others. Do you want to be involved?
Involved in your unit?
You could rework the sun battery, explore further, keeping it rather low profile at first, of course. But after a time, I want it to be a powerhouse, a real powerhouse of ideas, Christopher.
Oh, good. Everybody's here already. I've missed all the awkward bits.
That's right.
You're in time for something else, though.
Hi, Eleanor.
Albie, it's very good to see you. Well, you'll look much the same, don't we? It's rather refreshing. No shocks. Anybody want some coffee? A little coffee, and then we can all start to function properly.
Albert, it may seem a charming thought to try to put the pieces together, but the very last thing I want is for you to have any control over my actions, as a moment's thought might have told you.
I wouldn't have control.
And it's not necessary either. Nothing has changed for me.
Nothing has changed? Come on, Christopher.
Not when one looks at the facts.
You don't have to pretend here, please.
Pretend? What kind of word is that? There is no pretense.
What Christopher means is things are almost repaired after a long process.
I know what I mean. No, I have no need for any of this, Al, but I'll be very interested if you repeat your offer to Eleanor, since one of the main reasons you're here is to tell her you're shutting down her lab, terminating her.
What? What is this, Al?
It's not as simple as that. Eleanor and I have to have a talk.
Clearly.
Well, that's one way of putting
And I have to tell her about the units, of course.
So that's why you were so eager for me to be here with you, because you knew there was going to be unpleasantness.
No, I wanted us all to meet again for several reasons, but primarily to see if we could resume.
Jesus, Al, I can't believe this. I thought I'd come to watch things be mended at a reunion.
I'm sorry, but you didn't. You came out of voyeurism, didn't you, to see what I look like now?
What?
To see how I appeared. It's perfectly understandable.
Thanks. I think I can do without this, okay?
There is absolutely no need to be upset. I'm not in the least angry you came. I would have done the same.
No, I shouldn't be here. I don't belong here now. Al, please think about what you're doing.
It'll be all right, don't worry.
Coffee at last. We can pig ourselves on ginger biscuits.
Great.
Eleanor, I just need to do something. I'll be back soon, okay?
Don't be long.
It turns out Al has a couple of things to put to you, Eleanor.
Oh, good. I usually react with interest to what Albie has to say.
This is of particular interest. And while he's doing that, I think I have some calls to make.
Oh, you're not going to?
Yes, we have a flight to Germany tomorrow. He's been working very hard.
Of course, I'm truly busy. I have invitations bulging through the letterbox every morning. You know, my life has never been quite so full. Which is odd, isn't it? That's what you did, Al. And I'm not even angry.
I think I'd feel happier if you were screaming at me.
No, there's no need for that. You thought you had a job to do. It could have done harm, but it did not.
Oh, Christopher, for God's sake, this is me here.
The truth is... Listen to the truth, Al, because it's interesting. A temporary adjustment to my career was required, that's all. I bear no ill will, even to that girl, I can't remember her name now, who thought she had evidence. If time and money had allowed, maybe I should have sued and cleared up everything in the courts, but the moment's passed.
We better check our departure times now.
Christopher, I want to know why.
I know you want an admission, a confession even, but there is nothing to admit, Al. I just couldn't repeat the experiment, that's all. It's very simple, really. Don't think about it any further. I know it's galling, but there is nothing more to discover.
Well, they certainly don't want to drink my coffee.
He was amazing. He did it so effortlessly. He was so like Christopher, never letting a mask slip.
He was bound to be like that. Naturally, seeing you again.
Yes, of course.
So, the sole reason for this visit, Albie, is for you to see Christopher?
Yes, well, and you, of course.
Oh, yes, to see me. I've got a better idea. I've got a bottle of whiskey somewhere.
Did you have any chance to see the paper I pushed under the door earlier this morning?
I received it, yes.
I gave you the original. That's why it was spattered with beans. Hope that didn't put you off.
Oh, it was beans, was it? Thought it was chicken curry. Anyway, I got it, complete with the beans.
Thanks. So, what do you think of the work? My paper, tell me.
Thought it was great.
It is, isn't it? Yes! I've never heard you call anything great before.
Oh, maybe super, rather than great. Was it, how shall I put this? All your own work, Albie?
Amazing as it may seem, yes.
You sure? Before the baked beans stage. There's nobody else?
Jesus, what is this? You think I stole it? You can't believe that, Eleanor. After all, it's not me who was found to be doing fraudulent experiments.
No, Albie, that you haven't done.
Well, what does that mean?
No, I'm on my best behaviour tonight. I'm trying to do myself some good here, aren't I?
Please, Eleanor, you must tell me exactly what you mean. You can't think I got it wrong about Christopher.
No, I'm prepared to accept there were irregularities.
Irregularities?
That Christopher had a complete aberration. That I was wrong.
And I was right.
What I cannot accept, I have to tell you, is the way you've used what has happened. How everything that followed your discovery about Christopher has been passed off as a complete accident.
Well,
But each time it's led to your advancement in some way. I don't just mean your silly talks on the radio, but how you've used the wave of anti-science feeling for your own purposes, feeding people's cynicism and fear. According to you, not only are scientists solely responsible for buggering up the planet, but a great number of them aren't even any good, exaggerating the value of their work to get funding, etc., etc. And you've become a best-selling author peddling that. It's brilliant. And a little nauseating.
Go on.
You've always described yourself as a hack, Albie, but now you've become slightly more dangerous. Somebody who reduces everything to their own level and does it very effectively.
My rise, Eleanor, if it can be called that, is an accident, one haphazard thing after another.
Of course.
I'm not upset. I will just point out, you haven't seen an awful lot of me recently.
Oh, but I think I have, haven't I?
What do you mean? I haven't been here. What are you talking about?
On the rare occasions I venture out, I see you all over the place. Slices of you, Al.
What?
Things that remind me of you. Staring at me from the sides of buses, from giant posters. One can't move anywhere without being urged to tailor things to the marketplace, justify everything in commercial terms. I see you everywhere, Al, and I dread seeing you.
That is not true.
Maybe you should reach the other thing you've come to tell me, Albie.
Eleanor, when I started being in charge here, my attitude wasn't entirely formed. What I've experienced at first hand since then has left me in no doubt that most work should be geared directly to the marketplace, but it is a really crude analysis to think that's all I believe in.
Is it?
It's a caricature to say I'm just crassly commercial. I was the one who told Christopher to slow down, and you told me, unforgivably, to ignore what I'd found, to forget it.
You misunderstood what I said. No doubt for your own reasons.
No, it still stuns me when I think about it, what you told me to do.
If that's what you want to believe.
That's what happened, for Christ's sake. Those are the facts.
If it helps you to think that, justify your drive for efficiency.
Right, tell me, Eleanor, have you had a new idea in 25 years? Come on, tell me. I'm interested. A single fresh idea.
One or two, I believe, yes.
Name them. Come on, tell me. Name just one.
This is stupid.
All this secrecy, all this proud isolation, which has got even worse recently, and yet there isn't a shred of evidence that anything has been produced here, is there? You can't expect nobody to ask questions, to give you a licence to go on here forever. The work is so pure, it's invisible. There is nothing here. That is the truth. Absolutely nothing.
If you say so. That must be right. That must be correct.
And it hurts, doesn't it, when this blundering hag, somebody who you taught, actually comes along with a good idea. Out of nowhere, without years of work. This complete mediocrity. That hurts like hell, doesn't it? What's more, the little bastard can organise things too, can't he? Which none of you can do, because you despise all that.
For some reason, I've always thought one day you'd probably hurt me. That I'd suffer physical harm from you.
Oh, don't be ridiculous. That's really ridiculous, Eleanor, isn't it? That's truly pathetic.
Come on, why don't you do what you've come for anyway?
Do what?
Oh, Albie, don't play dumb with me now. You've come to tell me that you are recommending that this department should be closed down and the research facilities with it. You're not going to hesitate now, are you?
I will write you a letter.
A letter? Really? What will it say?
It will say, in view of the present financial realities, this particular university will concentrate on its strength, and therefore it will no longer possess a chemistry department. No new students will be admitted, and the research facilities will close at the end of September.
September? I need another year. That's too soon.
I will send you the letter.
I must have another year. If you need evidence, maybe I can let you see something. It's difficult because I'm not ready. I have to think about it. I don't know if I can. It might be possible in a few weeks.
Eleanor, please, it's gone too far.
You want me to ask in a suitably humble fashion, do you? Is that what you're really after? You're a very pragmatic person, Albie. Just tell me what I have to do to get the closure postponed. Shall I really shock you and plead? I will. Show me what I need to do. Show me, Albie.
Hello, I just came back to... I thought we hadn't had a proper moment to say hello.
No, we haven't.
Is everything all right?
Yes. Except I'm drinking too much.
I will send you the letter.
I'm sure you will. And then you'll get my response. I'm fairly certain I've never received a letter like that before.
I will see you before I leave.
Oh, Jesus.
Eleanor, I knew what he was going to say to you. I wanted to see if you were all right.
I'm not all right, of course. But I will see to it that I am. I still have a great desire to finish the work, and that is what is going to happen, without a doubt. There's plenty of ammunition left.
I can't believe we've let him do this to us, Eleanor.
I was not aware I'd let him do anything. I've even pleaded with him. Just now in my own laboratory, to Albie, little Albert. Everything I've done in my life, whatever my achievements are, my reputation, years of work, and it comes down to me pleading with an administrator to be allowed to exist.
Yes. And you know, Christopher doesn't even hate him.
Well, at least he's been free of Albie's control since the occurrence.
Well, I hate Al. I can't help it. But Christopher glides above it all, refusing to acknowledge anything.
He shouldn't be like that. He ought to admit to what's happened. The more he denies it, the more it diminishes him. He must face it, or he'll never be able to restart.
I know. I have to make him. I will. And all the time, Al gets more famous. It's extraordinary, his rise, his success. I lay awake at night planning revenge, Eleanor, all sorts of scenarios.
Revenge? Certainly, that would be good. But in fact, there's no need to worry about that.
What do you mean?
It's already started. A form of revenge. Because Albie has had an original idea.
I heard that. Garbage. But that's revenge.
Yes. It's the first fresh idea he's ever had, and now he's thought of it almost certainly won't go away, and that will be very unsettling for Albie.
I don't see.
You will. It's simple. He can't finish it on his own.
And in here, what do we have? A sachet of garlic mayonnaise as served on Concord with king prawns. I'm in Concord a lot, American freebies. And now we're in New York, heading for a reception in an entirely new building for the launch of a much-publicised book. Not one of mine, for once. It is the darkest moment of my life so far. But the food is great.
There you are, Al. Why did you wander off?
Only minor celebrities in there.
Oh, you've moved up a league now, have you?
And what's more, the book is shit.
The book is not shit. It's fantastic. It's a controversial look at the way we live now, the definitive comment on success. To quote the blurb which I wrote.
Oh, come on, we're standing 77 stories up, celebrating a book about a 12-year-old boy who also just happens to be a serial killer. The first child serial killer novel. There had to be one, of course. A perfect book for the dregs of the century.
You know everything, Al, of course, and the rest of us are just plain dim.
Yeah, as my blurb says on my dust jacket, I have become a detective patrolling the zeitgeist.
And this omniscience, does it apply to people too?
People?
Remember them? You see right through people on first acquaintance, get an accurate printout just by glancing at them.
Sometimes, yeah.
And old friends? You know everything there is to know about them too?
Yeah.
Like Christopher?
He lied, wanted to be famous quick.
That's it, just that?
Yeah. The golden boy had a thirst for money and fame, nothing else.
And Eleanor?
Somebody who no longer could compete. A proud lady who couldn't cope with the modern world.
That's her, is it too? As simple as that?
Yes. Every organisation has at least one, a distinguished employee who becomes outmoded.
She will surprise you yet. And me?
You? I don't think so.
Go on. And me?
A funny, original woman who in the end settled for being just another PR non-entity.
You are a complacent little shit, aren't you?
That's right. Eleanor always did say I'd grow up eventually.
It's rather frightening, the contempt you have.
We're all hacks now, Joanna. My great mistake was to think I was in a minority. But now we're all the same. That's why you and I fit the time so perfectly.
Must be marvellous to feel like that, to know you understand absolutely everything.
No.
It's not.
You remember I had an idea, Joanna, a great idea.
Oh yes, something to do with garbage. How appropriate.
Of course, yes. A workable fuel out of refuse, a potentially unlimited supply of energy. And I'm 60% of the way there. But I can't make it come out. Nearly, but I can't. I shut down a department with a great history. But I could go anywhere in the world with it. Find the commitment, build a team. I wanted to involve Eleanor.
But you didn't have the nerve to ask.
I found it impossible to suggest it to her. I'm tormented by a good idea, Joanna, that I wish I'd never had. I'm in a kind of hell of planes, parties, bouncing around the world with this in my head. It will not go away.
So there is some justice, then? Driven crazy by your one good idea, not able to finish it, and hopefully it will never let go of you.
Oh, no. If one thing is certain, there will be a solution.
I'm going back in there. I didn't think you could hurt me after all this time, Al, but you have.
The builders were meant to stop when the bells started. Somebody must see to it before the ceremony.
Was it always this colour? Everything seems more muted after the West Coast light. You feeling okay for your big day?
I'm fine. Feeling tip-top.
It is so good this is happening. The Talbot James Award. I think there have only been 6 other recipients in the whole history of the university. Some of those were undeserved.
Well, we both agree about that.
You know, Eleanor was always startlingly determined right from the start.
I bet she was.
Oh, yes. But now this is a very appropriate way for it to end.
End? Really? Some of us still have work to do.
Of course you do, Eleanor. I meant the department ending.
When do you think you'll publish?
Very soon, I hope.
Hello, Eleanor. You look splendid.
Of course, she always does. The speeches are usually very embarrassing on these occasions, aren't they, Professor? I hope yours will be different.
Well, it will be no more embarrassing than is normal. Nor will Albert's.
It's always a bit of an ordeal coming back to a place after a long gap, isn't it?
An ordeal, is it? I'm not finding it so. I feel no worries at all about facing everybody.
Nobody will be thinking about what happened. It's not in anybody's mind.
Oh, no. On the contrary. I know everybody present will be craning their necks to catch a glimpse. Is that really him? How does he look? I don't mind, but it's why a lot of them have come.
And here was I thinking today was about me.
And are you still working, Christopher?
Of course I'm still working. What do you think I'm doing?
No, I didn't mean that. I meant still on the sun battery.
No, you're completely out of date. I've moved on, of course.
Oh, I see. I knew you would. Remember the day we had the picnic? I often think about it. I remember it really clearly. All the autumn leaves everywhere, getting into everything.
Jesus, you can't even remember that right. It was a summer's day, a humid day. You have no memory at all, obviously.
I could have sworn it was a late autumn day. Surely, we were all huddled up in big coats.
No. And you were the one taking the photos. It's amazing. Or have you forgotten that completely as well?
Looks like it's going to be a very good turnout. I have little seating plans for each of you with your number showing you where you all need to go.
You've arranged the entire operation, have you?
Nearly. That building noise shouldn't be going on. Now, I want you all to go and check your places just to make sure where you are.
Already? Why?
Then you can come back, please. Now!
Of course, Al. Whatever you want. The hypocrisy of these occasions. Nobody ever says what they're really thinking, do they?
Thank God. Where would we all be if that happened?
But wouldn't it be interesting if they really did? Just for once. If you did, Eleanor. Today.
Have you all got your seating plans? Now, let's follow the instructions then. See how near the front we are.
I just have to stay and make sure Eleanor is ready.
Oh, is that what has to happen?
I really think it's unnecessary for us to do this now. I mean, we're not children. If I don't see you before, good luck.
Thank you, my dear. You must try and grow a memory, mustn't you?
Come on, Ghislaine. We will do Albie's check without complaint. But I will be the one who escorts her in. Is that absolutely clear? Don't forget what I said, Eleanor. Make it happen.
We're all so dependent now on Al. We even need him.
It stopped. The noise.
Excellent. I probably won't recognise this building next time I come here. Our department. It'll have a whole new interior. It has seen much fine work. All our endeavours, Eleanor. But progress has to have its way. This place's moment has passed. It's unavoidable. It's out of date. Used up.
You talking about me by any chance?
About all of us veterans, my dear. We old contemplators are not required anymore. I include myself. Oh, yes.
Like hell he does. And what's more, he's nearly 20 years older than me. I can't find my hat, Albie. You know, the stupid one with the tassels I have to wear. Since you're getting me ready.
No, well, I'll find it. Don't worry, I'll definitely find it.
Christopher's right.
Christopher's right, about what?
That nobody tells the truth on these occasions.
Oh, surely it'd be awful if they did.
It's like obituaries. They never tell the truth either. You written my obituary yet?
Eleanor, what a question. Don't be stupid.
No, come on now, tell me. I'm sure you've done one for a serious newspaper.
It's good. You'd like it, I think.
I can guess what you said.
I said this is the life of an important and tremendously gifted scientist, of course. A truly pure practitioner.
I don't want to hear the mush. I can imagine that very easily. What should you have said? It's much more interesting. And what should you jolly well have the guts to say today instead of all the deadly politeness I'm going to get?
I should say, my teacher, my idol, had one great lapse when she tried to gloss over an incident of serious scientific misconduct. And things were never the same again.
You definitely should say it. During the ceremony. I dare you, Albert.
Many, many times I've wondered, why did you do that?
It's not difficult. I was frightened of you.
Oh, come on, that's not true.
Oh, yes. Keep looking for the hat.
Oh.
The idea of having to justify my performance, that was alarming. I knew Christopher would be able to save me from all that once he'd achieved his work.
I don't believe you. I can't believe you were frightened. This is not a serious idea, OK, but maybe we can see something. Don't laugh, you promise?
I don't promise anything.
There was a moment recently when I saw things very clearly, but now...
Oh, no. Not those wretched bags again, Albie, please.
It's all here. Look, Eleanor, look. They form a crude diagram, you see, an instant pattern of the past.
They won't help. They can't show us anything.
They will, they can. We can form any configuration with them. Show why what happened did. Cause and effect. Look, Eleanor. Look at this one. It's the day I became professor. It's all caught in here. Takes you right back to that moment instantaneously. Do you remember that afternoon?
Yes, of course. Your nosebleed and your new shoes.
There is the blood-stained handkerchief right there. So here's the key to everything. Watch. What happened on that sleepy day? Did I actually scheme to stop you becoming head of department, you and Christopher?
Yes and no. Nothing's that simple.
I didn't. I really don't believe I did. I was only trying to survive that interview, to give the old bastard the answers he wanted.
And you did that brilliantly, Albie. As always, forever adaptable. Try as hard as you can. You can't reduce what happened to one neat pattern.
Oh, yes, everything is reducible in the end if you find the key, and I can. We can follow the trail. Watch, through this first day when there were stirrings of resentment and jealousy because it was the hack that got the job.
No, that's wrong. Too crude. Because you're not just a hack, Albert. That has never been the case.
I don't think you've ever said that to me before.
Haven't I? I'm sure I must have. In different words.
No. Not ever.
You were one of the brighter people that I taught. You stood out, one of the quickest minds of all. What does it matter now? Not much can change, can it? Not unless I can get out of today somehow.
So, here is the vital one, the gold. The great day of Christopher's announcement. And I know why he did it now. It wasn't just fame, was it? The primary cause. It wasn't money.
Probably not the primary cause, Albie, no.
Eleanor, please, don't mark. I know because I've been there as well.
Where, Albie?
The hell of creating something. That is in the dark tunnel you have to be in. There is the key. Christopher couldn't do it because he couldn't be there long enough. He lasted, of course, much longer than I did, but it snapped. He got so close, upsettingly close, but something had eaten away at his stamina. He couldn't bear to be there anymore. In that darkness. You don't have that problem, Eleanor, do you?
This is true. I do not.
The long-distance creator may be an endangered species. Is that even nearly right, do you think?
I'm sure it's one of the aspects, yes.
One of the aspects. Don't do that. It's the truth, because I know. I've felt it.
I forgot our number, your seating plan. Oh, Al, taking your plastic bags with you. Your unique diary. Here it is. Eleanor, I can't bear the idea of facing them all. I know what they'll be thinking.
It'll be fine, I'm sure. No, nobody will be thinking about it.
It will be fine for Christopher, I'm sure. He still refuses to acknowledge anything, but for me... You know the picnic that Barbara mentioned? I still have copies of the pictures she took, and the striking thing is Christopher looks exactly the same now as he did on that day. It all shows on me. Not just my hair, but everything about me. I can feel it when people meet me. However much I smile and chirp away, they sense it at once. And that's never going to change now, is it? And you know it's not. That's what I've got now. You do look wonderful, Eleanor. Here goes.
Poor girl. Where is that picnic, the celebratory picnic you didn't attend, Al?
Yeah, it's just here. And it's the other great pointer, isn't it? The day when we argued, when you told me to do nothing, which led directly to the most stupid decision of my life, which I wish I could redraw, closing you down.
Yes, Albie. The only thing we know for certain is you were always going to close me down, whatever happened.
No, that's not right.
Oh, yes, without Christopher's aberration and the way I shocked you, without any of that taking place, you'd still undoubtedly have done it.
You're absolutely wrong.
And of course you'd do it again. Tomorrow, if necessary, with no compunction at all, maybe even quicker.
No, for Christ's sake, Eleanor, are you saying I've learned nothing? Because that's not true.
You would do it again for a simple reason. You don't know what I'm doing. And mystery is expensive, infuriating, and uneconomic.
Oh, come on, Eleanor.
I will not compromise, even now, and you hate me for that.
I have never hated you. That is rubbish. I admire you more than anybody, passionately, with something akin to love. Of course, you must know that.
You would still shut me down, Albie. And what you don't know, and now I'm going to be outrageous, even more arrogant than usual, what you have no idea about was am I, the future.
Eleanor, you know the idea, my garbage proposal, the sung garbage, do you remember?
Yes, it was a super idea.
I cannot make it come out. And I cannot create the circumstances where I feel I'm going to get there. I have abandoned it. Oh, we should have worked together. Imagine what we could have done with my admin and your genius. Why did we never work together?
Because this was not the time.
What do you mean by that? Oh, if I'd asked you that day, when I had the chance to form the unit with me, I ought to have asked you.
It would have made no difference. I'm very fond of you, Albie, but I would have never wanted to work with you under any circumstances.
Oh, Jesus, Eleanor, even today, you're so implacable.
Yes. Now find the hat.
Of course. It's got more difficult now.
Maybe this is the way I can avoid the ceremony. The old bastard intoning, "It is our great and long overdue pleasure to honour our colleague," and I'm not there. I'll get in my car and sail out of here, why not? Perhaps we should, Albie, get in the old Morris and escape.
It's a great idea.
Yes, it is. Oh, God, I wish I could. That sounds ominous, doesn't it? I was sitting here on this very bench on my first day in this building, still a schoolgirl, waiting for my interview. It'll be full of media students very soon. It's very appropriate. Everything I've spent my time filtering out of my life, coming here in a big hurry.
Eleanor died 18 months later. In a way she would have approved of, might even have delighted her. She suddenly keeled over while shopping one day. She was carrying, tantalisingly, 3 boxes of A4 paper, as if she was preparing to set something down. without access to a lab. She hadn't quite finished. Her handwritten notes were infuriatingly indecipherable, naturally. I tried, but they were dense, spidery, secret. The builders have finished the renovation, but the building is standing empty because of an interdepartmental row about finance. There is just silence here, of course, and the gradually fading smell of new paint in the passages.
Come on! It's time, for Christ's sake. What have you been doing in here? It's her entrance now. She's going to be late.
Oh, shit, yes. But we haven't been able to find the house.
Oh, it doesn't matter, Albie. My one anarchic gesture to enter bareheaded.
Give them a shock. Good. I can't believe those faces in there. They're so predictable. They're all craning their necks to look at me. What does a disgraced scientist look like? It really is an ordeal. Even worse than I thought. I'm terrified. After today, I'm never coming back. But I had to be here for this, Eleanor. You want to take her in?
No, you take Eleanor. That's how it should be. I'll be right behind. But don't say where I belong.
No, we won't. Not today.
We can whisper as we go down the aisle to ease the tension.
Whisper what?
Oh, I don't know. About the weather. Or what your work really is. What a time to tell.
Ah, that's a good try, Albie. One of your very best.
Oh, shit, where are the bells? Oh, come on, come on. They should have started. At least then today will seem complete. I may have to see to this. We made it.
Good. I knew you would arrange it well, Albie.
Right. Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3.
Eleanor, what are you doing? Come on.
Patience. I'm coming.
In Blinded by the Sun by Stephen Poliakoff, Al was played by Alex Jennings, Eleanor by Harriet Walter, Joanna by Jodie Whittaker, and Christopher by Stephen Pacey. John Rowe was the Professor, Christine Kavanagh, Ghislaine, Helen Longworth, Barbara, and Christian Rodsker, Charlie. Blinded by the Sun was written by Stephen Poliakoff and directed in Birmingham by Peter Leslie Wilde.
Flight of a Witch by Ellis Peters, dramatised by Sally Hedges, with Ewan Thomas as Tom Felse and Rob Spendlove as Detective Inspector George Felse. Flight of a Witch.
The Hallowmount. There are some places that attract evil, that have an atmosphere of ancient wrongdoing, of a malevolence that seems to seep out of the earth and infect the very air we breathe. An idea which my dear brother George would have dismissed with contempt.
The world's a rational place, Tom. That's what police work's taught me. Apply the rules and everything slots into place, like a jigsaw. It's just a question of finding the right pieces.
And being myself a mathematician, I was, for the greater part of my pig-headed youth, inclined to agree with him. Until...
Heaven help us. Listen to this. In the 17th century, the superstitions of the past were largely due to poor education and the ignorance of the lower classes. Ignorance spelt with an S.
Terence Wiggins, lower fourth.
Right in one.
Haven't come across that one yet.
You will.
Until the time when I found myself in a remote town in the Welsh borderlands, in the early autumn of 1966, the newest member of staff at Commerbourne Grammar School for Boys.
Insufferable snob to boot.
You should know, Godfrey. How are you settling in, by the way?
Oh, fine, thanks. In the process of looking for a more permanent abode at the moment.
Probably end up as a policeman.
What? Who are you talking about?
Terence Wiggins, right little Nazi.
Somehow it didn't seem the right moment to mention the existence of my detective inspector brother, stationed with the Birmingham police.
You should try Fairford. It's where I am. A blissful 2 miles away from this madhouse. Any connections in the area, have you?
No.
Well, try the Old Forge. I've heard Arthur Beck's looking for a lodger.
Beck? What's he like?
Oh, middle-aged, retired schoolmaster. At pains to appear eccentric, you know the sort?
Don't I just?
No, definitely not the moment to mention George.
Trust me, brother mine, there's not one unsolved crime to block my copybook, and do you know why? Because I always follow the rule, look at the facts, and trust the facts, Tom. And then you'll find the truth staring at you, right in the eye.
And I suppose to be fair, I should warn you. Beck's got a daughter.
Really?
Yes. Uncommon handsome. 18 years old. And by the name of Annette.
Annette?
No. Annette.
Old form, 16th, 17th century-ish.
Oh, really?
Yes. Died out quickly, though. Most of them got burnt.
What are you talking about?
Witches. Annette, Janet, that sort of thing. Right name for her, if you ask me.
And brought up as George and I were in the prosaic, materialistic world of our very respectable, hard-working parents, and with similar outlooks on life.
Look at all this malarkey of the newspapers just now. Woman meets spirits in out-of-body experience while on operating table. I ask you.
It was small wonder I was unprepared for what hit me in this strange, far-flung place on the very boundary between commonsensical England and the mystical Celtic land of Wales, as though astride a line between two worlds.
What am I to tell the priest? That my girl Tabitha says she were only gone a morning, when everyone knows it were a full sun night. Oh, they'll burn me at the stake for a witch if I tell them that.
I were lost, Mother. I tell thee, I were lost. I don't remember what happened.
For a whole week. On the Hallowmount. Oh, what, did the earth open up and swallow thee?
'Tis true, Mother. All I can hear in my head's chanting. Strange words.
Oh, 'tis the devil's work, my girl.
'Tis very peaceful, Mother.
Oh, Tabitha, thou'rt not the same. Where's my daughter gone? Thou'st the look of someone dreaming of. Oh, Tabitha, Tabitha, answer me.
Yes? Can I help you?
I'm calling because I was told there was a vacancy here.
Oh, it's about the room. Come in.
There is a kind of beauty that produces crass wolf whistles, and another kind that creates silence, taking the voice out of men's mouths and the breath out of their throats.
Who was it at the door, Annette?
This gentleman, Father.
I'm so sorry to disturb you. I've just joined the staff at Commerbourne Grammar.
Tom Felse. New maths teacher.
Yes.
Arthur Beck. Yes, we've heard about you.
And I heard you had a room to let.
Yes, I'll gladly show you. You've met my daughter, Annette. And this is Peter Blacklock, a friend of the family.
Hello.
How do you do? I was just on my way out, in fact. Thanks for dropping Annette home. And I'm glad the rehearsal went well.
Oh, it did. Helped in no small measure by Annette.
Peter is the choir master up at St Mary's Church.
Ah, I see. And you're in the choir, Annette?
Yes, I see.
She's one of the altos.
An invaluable one.
Yes. For some reason, sopranos are tearing a penny round here, Mr. Felse.
Quite. And when one's attempting something as ambitious as the Messiah. But I really must be off.
Of course. And good luck with it. Good night.
Goodbye.
I'll see you out.
The room is this way, my good fellow. And it works for the Blacklocks up at the hall. Mrs. B is our local lady of the manor. You know the type. Rolling in it and up to her neck in charity work. And it's lucky to work for her. They take very good care of her, you see, Mr. Felse. Never let her come home alone. Always send her in the car. Though today the chauffeur's off duty, I suppose. Now,
Here's the room.
I accepted it on the spot.
Mr. Felse, isn't it? Would you like a lift?
Well, that's very kind of you, Mrs.
Mallandine. Miles' his dear mother. But don't worry. I promise not to ask you how he's getting on.
It's a deal.
Do you mind if I call you Tom? After all, you're almost in loco parentis to my brat. What brings you out this way?
I've just been on a quest for suitable lodgings.
Oh, and like all true knights, found your desire?
You could say that.
From your direction, I divine you've just come from the Becks. Am I right?
Well...
We're a very close-knit community round here. What do you make of them?
Very pleasant.
And you saw Annette, I presume?
Yes.
Her father's very careful of her.
I noticed.
Though he's not so mad as he seems, considering the way she looks.
Very, unusual, yes. Extraordinary, even.
Not only in looks. There was an incident last spring. She was discovered, with my blessed offspring, at Commerbourne Station. Apparently they were about to run off together. Bill, my husband, he discovered them there quite by chance, cases packed, on the very point of boarding the train.
What a shock.
Oh, absolutely. For everybody concerned. He just grabbed them, delivered Annette back to her father, then shut himself in the living room with Miles. Didn't get much out of him, I understand. I kept out of it, made a cheese souffle. Seemed the most sensible thing to do.
And is he still... I mean, has he got over it yet?
I don't know. Getting over Annette might be quite a lengthy convalescence, don't you think?
It well might.
Still, he's trying for Cambridge next year, so that'll keep him busy. Oh, I hear he's going camping with you next weekend. Plus, 30 juniors? Heaven help you.
We're only going a couple of miles from the school. We'll survive. Oh, drop me along here by the travel agents, would you?
Ooh.
I've got to see about some maps I ordered.
Listen, you won't take them on the Hallowmount, will you?
The Hallowmount? Why not?
I don't worry too much myself, but some of the mothers might. You weren't thinking of going there, were you?
Well, no, I wasn't. Too exposed for October. I was thinking of just taking them along the West Lynn Valley.
Good. Fine.
There's your gin and tonic. So, do you think the head will expel Graham Meredith?
It's highly likely. Mr. Jones doesn't normally take such drastic action, but Graham has had 3 disciplinary warnings already. And besides, there is a body of complaints from the parents.
Talking of complaining parents...
Oh, not Mrs. Morgan again. Oh, David's in your class, isn't he?
Yes. Rather, no. I wasn't thinking of Mrs. Morgan. It was Mrs. Mallandine.
Miles's mother? I've always found her very pleasant.
No, she wasn't complaining. It was just that she gave me a lift from the Becks.
Oh, yes. You're not the first young master she's picked up.
What?
She's, a little bit flighty.
Really? Well, I don't think she had any interest in me. At least I wasn't aware.
So?
She just made a rather curious comment about the Hallowmount.
Oh?
Is there some incident I should know about?
No, not at all. It's just that the place has several spooky stories attached to it. Oh, not recent incidents. They're legends and myths from long ago.
Like what?
Goodness, I can't remember. I've never taken any notice of them. Godfrey's the person to ask.
No, thanks. I don't think I'll bother.
Already had enough of him, have you?
I can't help but notice how the staff room empties when he comes in.
It's not 6 o'clock yet. And look at that mist.
Oh, it's freezing. It's really damp down here in the valley, sir. Couldn't we have camped higher up?
Well, I would have taken you up into the hills, but I was warned off it.
You what?
Well, the Hallowmount, anyway.
Who by?
Your own mother, as it happens.
Probably a sensible move.
On what grounds?
Well, all this region is it's a bit weird, really.
In what way?
Oh, it's got a long history of strange happenings. Some say a witch's coven used to meet on the Hallowmount. And maybe still does. And then there's the altar.
Have you seen that?
No.
From the top of the Hallowmount?
There's like a spine that stretches out down to the valley like it's some beast. Lying in wait there, breathing in time to the rising and sinking of the moon.
Yeah, all right, Dominic.
It's just that near the top there's an outcrop of rock, which looks exactly like...
An altar. And some say the Druids used it for human sacrifice.
Look, Dominic, you're not scaring me, but the younger ones might be listening.
And if you walk there at nightfall, it's said you might never be seen again, for people have been known to disappear!
Cut it out!
But why should anyone be afraid of it in this day and age?
Oh, we're not afraid. Are we, Miles?
Of course we're not.
In awe of it, then?
No. In awe. Yes.
Yeah, in awe. That's it.
But that's quite another thing, isn't it?
Is it?
Ah, Mr. Felse.
Annette?
You're going home to London for the half-term holiday?
Yes. How did you know?
Oh, my father probably mentioned it.
Is that you, Annette?
I'm just going out, Father.
Well, your tea's nearly ready.
I'll be back. Excuse me. Could I just get my raincoat?
Oh, yes. Sorry. It's pouring outside, did you know?
Yes. I like the rain. How long will it take you to drive home?
About 4 or 5 hours.
Well, you've got another hour or so before the light fades.
Yes. It would be a good idea to, Goodbye, then.
Bye.
See you on Tuesday.
And she went off up the lane. A few minutes later, I set off towards Commerbourne. As I drove, I glanced up towards the long, rain-dimmed hogback of the Hallowmount. And just as the clouds parted and a quivering spear of light transfixed it, I was sure it was Annette I saw climbing the hillside and vanishing over the crest.
All dressed in different colours, wearing hoods. I cannot see their faces. And they be chanting all around. It comes from beneath my feet, from the earth. And they're leading me to the altar. And now giving me something to drink. And now the rock has moved. It is opened up. And I go inside Hallowmount.
It's a priest!
Let me come to her. What is this foolishness?
It's sorcery!
She's bewitched! Never worship! That's what she's talking of!
Push her to the top!
No, Tabitha. Tabitha, child, can you hear me?
I hear thee, Father.
Tell me what thou saw. Inside the hill.
It is the most beautiful place. There are tiny lights. They dance in the air like drops of rain that don't fall, and they make me want to dance. I like the rain.
She danced the priest.
Send to the adults. There'll be no physics to cure that.
As I say! It is the truth thou art speaking, Tabitha. Tabitha, didst dance?
What's wrong with dancing? If I say I were dancing, then I'll be hanged, will I? Or worse, then I don't know. I don't know what happened to me. All I know is I was happy there. Is it a sin to be happy?
I returned to Fairford quite late on the Tuesday evening. As soon as the door opened, I knew something was wrong.
There you are, Felse. Nice weekend?
Yes, very thanks. How about you?
Oh, very quiet. It can get quite lonely here. You know, I've missed you.
You're not on your own, are you? Is Annette working late at the hall?
Oh, no. She's gone to Commerbourne with her friend Myra. There was some film they wanted to see. One of these 3-hour epics.
I was slightly perturbed by Beck's strange edginess, and as I opened the cupboard to hang up my coat, something struck me.
It's a warm evening.
Very close.
Did she go out in her raincoat, then?
What?
Her usual jacket. It's hanging right here, but her raincoat's not. She didn't wear her heavy raincoat on a warm evening like this, did she?
What?
There's something not quite right here. It was raining on Thursday when I left, but it hasn't rained again all weekend. The roads were bone dry all the way. She isn't out with Myra, is she?
What do you mean?
I said she isn't out with Myra. What's happened?
She never came home.
Since?
Since last Thursday.
Have you told the police she's missing?
No. You see, something like this happened. She tried to go off once before. And now again. People will say that they'll call her. I didn't want that. No more scandal. Not if I could avoid it.
Have you looked for her?
Yes. Oh, yes.
What about Mrs. Blacklock? Hasn't she been wondering where her secretary's got to?
Virginia's been away all weekend at some conference in Gloucester. She gave Annette the whole week off. If Annette came back now, no one would know. No one but us two.
But it's 5 days! And no message, no letter, nothing?
No, nothing.
I saw her. Last Thursday when I left. As I was driving past the Hallowmount, I saw her climbing the hill. I saw her go over the crest and disappear.
Then we ought to go there.
What?
If that's the last place we know she was, there may be some clue.
Yes. If there's anything to be found after 5 days.
She was about here, and climbing this way, fast.
As I walked, a curl of wind spiraled upward in front of my feet, along the path Annette must have taken, bending the grass stems, leading me on.
Slow down, old chap.
At the summit, there was a strong wind blowing from the west. A rock stood out against the skyline, sharp and hypnotically black. I realized at once, this must be the altar. The wind drummed in my ears, and in its depth, there was a strange sound as though I could hear...
Annette! My God!
What's the matter?
We came to look for you.
Where have you been? When you went out, you say you've been for tea.
Oh. I know I'm late. I went farther than I realised.
Annette! Please!
Aren't you supposed to be in London, Mr. Felse?
Annette, what are you talking about?
What do you mean? Why are you both here? Can't I go for a walk for a couple of hours without you following me?
A couple of hours? What about the 5 days in between?
What 5 days?
And that was as much as we got out of her. She recited it over and over again, the same story.
This evening, I left the house and went for a long walk over the Hallowmount. I meant to come back round by the main road, but it got dark so quickly I changed my mind and climbed back over the top. It was Thursday when I left, and so it must be Thursday now.
Look at the date on today's newspaper. It's Tuesday. 5 days have passed. Look!
She couldn't be shaken from her story, and when we finally disbanded and wearily went to bed, I straightway fell into a fitful sleep.
Why not you?
We've gone 2 hours. 2 hours. What are you saying? It can't have been 5 nights I was away.
Fill me on a little history, old boy, seeing as you're new to the area.
Some say witches' coven used to meet on the Hallowmount, and some say people walking there at nightfall have been known to disappear.
Ashes? 'Tis not witchcraft. Dost thou think I am a witch?
Annette! 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 Annette!
I'd woken with a start, shaking from head to foot.
Dear heaven.
I lay tossing and turning until dawn, when daylight thankfully brought with it the return of my old philosophy.
The world is a sane and logical place, isn't it, George? By Jove, I wonder what you'd make of all this. So, let's look at the facts. She disappears for 5 days. Alone? Why should she go to all that trouble just to be on her own? No, there must be someone else involved. And whoever it is must be human, for heaven's sake.
And since sleep was impossible, I decided to investigate the last place we'd seen her, for any tracks, any clues at all. In the grey first light of day, the Hallowmount lay slumbering, desolate. And then the idea came to me that in the depths of the wind sound, I could hear voices, as though I was not alone.
Come on. Don't start imagining things. Let's be rational about this.
I surveyed the lie of the land to see if there were any obvious escape routes.
And that's the most obvious one down there, at the foot of the hill.
And, allowing myself only one glance back over my shoulder, I set off.
Yes! That's the track that leads back to the road to Abbott's Bale. And from there to, well, to wherever she, or they, liked.
Yes. I had to face the fact sooner or later. They, it most certainly had to be.
Now, what can we see? Couldn't get a car along here. Blast!
But that fall turned out to be fortunate. With my eyes at ground level, I could clearly see a single broad indentation in the grass. There was no mistaking the recent marks of motorbike tires. It was only a possibility that it was connected, but if it was, then whoever she had been with owned or had the use of a motorbike. And I knew Mars Malandine fell into that category.
You wanted to see me, sir?
Yes. I won't keep you long. Sit down. You own a motorbike, don't you?
Yes, sir.
May I ask, did you use it this weekend?
Yes. I went camping up on Capel Curig with Dominic.
The whole weekend? When did you set off?
Oh, about 5:30 on Thursday.
And when did you get back?
We went for the whole half-term. Got back about 8 o'clock Tuesday night. Last night.
Did you take your bike out earlier on Thursday afternoon? Say, round the track at the foot of the Hallowmount?
No, sir. Sir, can I ask, has this got anything to do with Annette Beck?
Why do you assume it might?
Well, her father rang my mother on Thursday evening, which was unusual in itself. But apparently he was fishing to know where I was. We concluded she might have gone missing again, and he thought I might be involved. Anyway, if she has, it's got nothing to do with me. I'd just like to make that clear.
If this matter is about Annette, and I'm not saying it is, but you do realise you're bound to be the prime suspect.
What?
Considering that first time? When you were discovered together on Commerbourne Station, I mean?
Oh, no way. I don't want anything to do with that girl ever again, believe me.
Why should I, Miles? She's a very attractive girl.
Maybe, but not to me. Look, you might find this hard to swallow, but after that first time, I got some pretty strange, I don't know, warnings, if you like. No, I wouldn't go near her again.
What sort of warnings?
Messages, by post. They were all about keeping away from her. And one of them had... Look, you can laugh if you like, but...
No, go on.
Well, one of them had this weird symbol of some kind. And it was painted in... Well, it looked like paint, but when I examined it closer, I could swear it was blood.
I see. How very disturbing.
Yeah.
Were these messages signed?
No. I don't know who sent them. I don't want to know. They've stopped now, and I don't want anything more to do with it.
I see. You didn't think to go to the police?
I thought it was safer not to.
I don't suppose you kept any of these messages, did you?
No, I got rid of them. Look, I don't want anyone to... Can this be kept just between us two?
You mean you didn't tell anyone?
No.
Not even your mother?
No, it would have frightened her.
All right, Miles. Thank you. You can go now. And don't worry.
Thanks.
In the books I read now, I found a wonderful thought by a priest who wrote, "We unconsciously act as angels for each other. The odd comment overheard on the bus can sometimes be meant for us. Alas for me, I didn't recognise the warning I now believe was in the words Miles spoke that day. I decided to think about the symbol he had described, and to delve into some local history.
Tea or coffee? Which would you like? The kettle's just boiled.
Right.
Tom?
Sorry? Oh, sorry. Yes, coffee, please.
Black one sugar, isn't it?
Yes. Jane, do you know anything of Tabitha Blount?
Tabitha Blount? The name's familiar.
She has some connection with the Hallowmount. Godfrey muttered something about people disappearing. I should have asked him more, but I couldn't spare yet another hour for one of his expositions.
Quite. Actually, I do remember something about this, because James Roberts in 5A painted rather a stunning picture of a young girl by this so-called altar on the Hallowmount. It was in the pre-Raphaelite style.
I've just been looking her name up in this little book I borrowed from the library, about Celtic sacred places, but there's no mention of her.
I'm trying to remember. Why do you want to know?
Oh, just local interest.
Not another car journey with Eve Mallandine, by any chance?
No. Some of the boys were talking about local stories when I took them camping.
Oh, I remember. She was a young girl who lived around here at the start of the 18th century. She vanished whilst walking up the Hallowmount, but turned up several days later, believing she'd only been gone for a couple of hours.
Did she have no idea what had happened to her?
I don't think so. I've always dismissed that sort of stuff. Oh, you can't take it seriously. Tom!
No, of course not. But I'd like to find out the rest of the story, if there is anything else. Who could I ask?
I could talk to James Roberts. He probably knows. He must have researched his painting.
I could ask him.
Perhaps better not. Word might spread that you had a rather weird interest in the supernatural. It's easy for me as I set in the painting project. I'll do your dirty work, but it'll cost you.
Dinner?
Now that makes my homework worthwhile.
Annette? Annette? I want you to know that if there's anything I can do to help you, I will. I'd like to think you'd ask me.
I don't need any help.
I hope you won't, Annette. But I'm afraid you may. I feel it isn't over. And I don't want you to be hurt.
Why should I be, Tom?
I don't know, but I just sense...
Elliott, there's someone here who wishes to speak to you.
Good heavens. George.
Evening, Tom. This isn't a social call, I'm afraid. Are you Miss Annette Beck?
Yes, she is.
Miss Beck, my name is Detective Inspector Felse, and there's a matter on which I'm obliged to ask you some questions.
What about?
Whatever for. We'd better go into the living room, shall we? Tom, do you know the Inspector?
We're brothers. In fact, I may need a statement from you too, Tom.
Of course. Well then, what's this about, Inspector?
Now, Annette, I want you to tell me how you spent last weekend.
I can't do that.
I think you can.
I can tell you what I told them, but you won't believe me.
Try me.
I had 5 free days from Thursday. Mrs. Blacklock was going to a conference in Gloucester. I usually go to choir practice on Friday evening, but...
He rang up on Friday night, Peter Blacklock. After choir practice. He was worried because she didn't turn up. I told him she had a bit of a cold and had gone to bed early. He rang again on Sunday morning after church to ask how she was. He's the choir master.
So you weren't at choir practice on Friday evening. Where were you, Annette?
I was home all Thursday afternoon. I remember I went out for a walk.
And she told her story over again, just as she told us the night before.
So you went up the Hallowmount and vanished out of time and place.
It's happened before, in the 17th century. Tabitha Blount.
Good God, yes. Tabitha Blount.
Mr. Felse, you must allow for the possibility of more things in heaven and earth, you know. How can we presume
Tell
to
me,
know
Annette,
everything?
you were no nearer the underworld than, say, Birmingham, were you?
No!
Birmingham? What's all this about? Why should she be in
Last
Birmingham?
Saturday night, around shop closing time, a young girl was seen by 2 witnesses standing on the corner of an almost deserted street in Birmingham. She seemed to be waiting for somebody, about 40 yards from a small but very exclusive jeweller's shop. Both witnesses gave excellent descriptions, and Annette fits them perfectly.
What? However good the descriptions were, why a girl from Fairford, of all places?
The
when
girl
this was
had
in
a
Birmingham?
small piece of paper in her hand, and she was talking to a young man who seems to have taken something of a fancy to her. He saw her throw the paper down, and he remembered it stuck in a rut in the pavement. We retrieved it. It turned out to be a tenpenny bus ticket between Commerbourne and Fairford. With that and the accurate description, it wasn't hard to pinpoint Annette as the girl. Unfortunately, no one saw the person she was waiting for.
But this is ridiculous. Why are you hunting for this girl?
Because at around midnight that night, a policeman on his beat noticed the steel mesh gate over the jeweller's doorway wasn't quite closed. He went in and found the till cleared of cash and about £2,000 worth of jewellery missing. The proprietor, Jacob Worrell, an old gentleman, was in his workroom at the back. His head had been battered in with a heavy silver candlestick. He was dead.
And I was just in time to catch her as she fainted.
Call the doctor at once.
Yes, of course.
Let's put her on the couch, Tom. No, don't put a pillow under her head. Keep her flat.
Was taken inside.
What?
She's saying.
Dr. Lloyd?
Lost.
It's Mr. Beckett.
I cannot find.
What can't you find, Annette?
Think I am a witch.
Can you come Detective Inspector Felse is here. He told me to ask you to hurry. Oh, good. Thank you. Right,
Annette?
She's on her way. Annette? How is she?
No, she's sunk back. Is she subject to fainting fits?
No, you frightened her.
She could have read the story in the paper.
We don't get newspapers in this house. Sensational rubbish. Oh, Annette. Annette.
I think we'd better get her to bed.
Yes.
As I lifted her, her head rolled limply on my shoulder and revealed a thread of black velvet ribbon round her neck. George carefully eased it round till he could untie it. He held it up. It was a narrow circlet of gold. A wedding ring.
How is she, Doctor?
Physically, she's as strong as a horse. There are no ill effects. Perhaps it would be best to leave her alone for tonight, though.
Of course. Do one more thing for me, would you, Doctor? With your permission, Mr. Beck, I want to put a constable on guard here in your house.
Yes.
I'd be obliged, Doctor, if you'd stay here with Annette until he arrives.
I am on call. Oh, very well. I'll go back to her. But I hope your constable won't be too long.
I'll be off now, then. I shall have to take this ring with me. Do you understand?
Yes, take it.
Don't let her out of the house, and she must speak to no one but us. You'd better telephone Mrs. Blacklock in the morning and say Annette is still unwell.
Yes, that would be best.
Now, I'll need a good recent picture of her.
Yes. I have one in my wallet here.
All right, thank you. You'll have it back.
And if you'll excuse me, I'd like to go back to Annette.
I'll see you out. I can hardly believe this. I'm actually in one of your investigations. Why didn't you let me know you were coming?
Oh, very unprofessional. Besides, I didn't want to give Miss Beck any prior warning.
You don't really suspect her, do you?
I suspect everybody till I've good reason not to. We're rather short on suspects for the boyfriend. She's led such a protected life. Anything more you can tell me, Tom?
No. Except... Well, there is one thing. I went over the Hallowmount yesterday morning early to see if there were any signs of a vehicle having been up there recently. I found tracks of a motorbike. It's possible someone might have brought her back that way the night before. There may still be a trace left. I could show you if you liked.
First thing tomorrow. About 7 suit you?
George, why the police guard? Where would she run to?
I wasn't thinking so much of Annette running. This companion of hers has killed once already. He'll know we're investigating, and only Annette knows who he is.
Come and join me, Tom. I don't usually indulge, but in the circumstances...
I desperately wanted to sit quietly and think over the events of the
I just don't
day.
understand this.
But I felt I'd better humour him.
So perplexing.
He was obviously in a bad way.
How could Annette know a young man in Birmingham? It's a mistake, isn't it?
He droned on, constantly needing reassurance.
What'd she do for
But he wouldn't
5
be
days in
comforted
Birmingham?
until it started to become difficult to find the right words to say.
But then why should I be expected to succeed with her? You don't know Tom, do you? About Annette? I've never told anybody.
It was ironic. I was only half listening when he made his startling revelation.
I want to tell you. It's been on my mind so long. I've got to tell someone. She isn't mine, you see.
Oh.
I know it's hard to believe, but I never understood her. I was always ashamed and afraid, because she isn't even mine. I never had any influence over her. It's true, you know. My wife told me. She waited long enough for me to give her a child. In the end, she got one where she could. She never told me who. And then she died, when Annette was only 3. One of those strange accidents that happen. Annette had run into the garden one evening, when there was a storm. She was always fascinated by lightning. And my wife ran after her. I found her lying under that tree at the end. The one with the scorch mark down one side. Lightning, they said. One day she was there. And the next...
My mind started working. Was it possible? Yes, it made a lot of sense. I finally got him to bed, and then spent another wretched night.
Let me go! Let me go back!
Hold still, I say!
Jesus, help me!
Quiet, woman! Take comfort! Now, Tabitha! Tabitha, look at me! Look at me and speak, I command you!
What would Stanley do, priest? Oh, she's gone!
We're out now, Tabitha!
I am not Tabitha! She is gone! You call in vain!
Be gone, demon! In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, I command you to leave this child!
The earth opened and closed over her! And now she belongs down there, to the darkness! You are too late!
I never had any influence, any power over her.
I awoke, my head pounding. These strange dreams, what did they mean? I felt as though the full weight of misery was pressing down. The misery of knowing there was nothing I could do to help Annette, except search for the truth, which I naively thought would help. So I arose the next morning early, and showed the motorbike imprints to George at the foot of the Hallowmount. He took detailed notes, but what he made of it he didn't let on. On the way back, we stopped at the local petrol station.
Ever met the lad who works here?
No.
He's a real flash Harry. Had just about every girl in the place running after him. Morning, Jeff.
Oh, well, if it isn't Mr. Felse.
Fill her up, lad, will you? Still driving for Lowthers, are you?
What's it to you?
Oh, just like to keep up with the news. And I'm right, aren't I, in thinking you own a 350 motorbike?
Look, what's all this about? I'm clean, I'm going straight like I said I would, OK?
I'll take that as a yes. Right, that'll do, thanks. Oh, one last thing. Do you know this girl?
What? Yeah, of course. Everyone knows who she is.
How well do you know her? Been out on a date with her, have you?
Was anything happened to her?
No, just making a few inquiries. So you do know her? One of your regulars, is she, Jeff? Don't tell me she's a member of the Jeff Westcott fan club too.
Look, just lay off, will you? I might have spoken to her once or twice, but... Well, if you're looking for someone she's been seen with on a regular basis, why don't you try asking him over there?
He nodded across the street to a young man in a leather jacket, who had just propped a heavy motorcycle at the side of the road. He had the look of a gypsy, tall and dark.
Who is he?
Don't you know him? Well, perhaps you don't recognise him out of uniform. He's more often behind the wheel of a Bentley than on one of those BSAs. Must be off duty.
The Bentley? Are you telling me that that's Mrs. Blacklock's chauffeur?
That's right.
Since when? There used to be a thin, grey-haired fellow named Brady.
He retired about 3 months ago. And then he came.
George looked at me with an amused twinkle in his eye.
Right. Thanks, Jeff. Keep the change. So that's the reliable human machine that takes Annette home regularly.
Don't think Beck knows.
Probably not. Seeing as the chauffeur would naturally stay in the car when they reach the house. Right. Where shall I drop you off?
The school, if you don't mind. Time's moving on and I've got house assembly this morning.
Right, you are. Now let me think. Annette gets escorted home every evening by Stockwood, the dashing chauffeur. Rarely goes out except to choir practice. And
That's it! I knew I'd seen him before somewhere.
Who?
The youth you've just been speaking to at the garage. Jeff, what's his name?
Westcott?
Yes, him. I saw him the Friday before the half-term when she disappeared. Outside the church, just as Annette was coming out. I happened to be on my way to the Red Lion for a drink. Yes, I remember thinking she looked strangely nervous when she was talking to him.
Look, I can't, so don't ask me.
I was too far off to catch everything they were saying, but Jeff Westcott was looking very tense, I remember.
Well, it's not a good idea to be seen here.
I wanted to step in and ask her if she was all right, but then Jeff turned, and he obviously saw someone coming out of the church because he ran off.
Was he bothering you, Annette?
Oh, Peter. No. No. It's all right. He was just...
Hello there. How did the practice go?
Ah, Mr. Felse.
It went very well, thanks.
That boy took off like a bat out of hell. I think you gave him a fright appearing out of the shadows like that.
Yes, these black cassocks have their uses. I've noticed they make you virtually invisible at night.
Great effect. I'm going for a drink. Would you both care to join me?
No, thank you. I promised Mr. Beck I'd walk Annette home straight after choir practice.
So Westcott does know her?
Yes, pretty well it would seem. Right, thanks, Tom. Fancy a drink tonight?
Fine. I'm working late, till 7:15.
I'll pick you up from school then.
Mr. Felse? Mr. Felse? Tom, have you got time for a quick cup of tea? I've got some news for you.
Really?
Tabitha Blount. Remember?
We turned into the staff room, which fortunately was empty and sat in the far corner. The room was very warm and very stuffy, and I hoped my interest in Jane's information was sufficient to keep me awake. Curiously, Tabitha Blount was seeming less important, since Annette's disappearance was more likely to be explained by a liaison in Birmingham than a mystic experience inside a mountain. And yet, I seemed to want to believe Annette's story, although it contradicted logic and common sense.
So I decided to corner Dominic.
Dominic? Miles's friend?
Tom, are you listening? I've just said James Roberts told me he got his idea from Dominic. Apparently he's always trying to scare the boys with his witchcraft stories. Pretends to have inside knowledge and claims there's a coven that meets on the Mount.
Really? What else?
Oh, Tom, you're completely hooked on this, aren't you?
No, of course not. I'm just curious.
Well, I had a good excuse to talk to Dominic, as he was the prefect in charge of my house activities for the Christmas fair. He was rather suspicious at first, but I think he finally believed that I wanted to set an assignment on local legends. And then he wanted to be impressive, feel important.
Does he think there's still a practising coven up there?
He seemed to. He was rather cagey. Probably thinks I want to join. I'll be a laughingstock in the school.
Thoughts of Jeff Westcott receded as Jane told me the conversation, and I began to feel uneasy. The room, too, started to get chilly as the fire flickered. No, it wasn't my imagination, for as Jane spoke, she pulled her cardigan round her shoulders.
In the 18th century, it seems that a sort of ritual took place at the altar on the Hallowmount, with the participants encircling it. He said there were certain signs marked on the ground as well as on the altar, and the high priests chanted to invoke the devil. Sometimes there was a sacrifice.
Human?
I hope he meant animal, but I didn't want to inquire too far. At a climactic moment, a rock would move on the mountain and reveal a path inside. This, it seems, is what happened to Tabitha.
What?
She went inside and disappeared. When she re-emerged, several days later, rumour spread quickly that she was a witch, and the local priest came to exorcise her. She talked about how she had danced, which was thought of as sinful in those days, and she'd seen lots of lights inside and heard voices. Her personality had changed, and it was said that a demon had taken possession of her soul, and that one day the real Tabitha would return.
I shuddered, remembering my dreams. I had never thought myself susceptible to psychic phenomena. What was happening to me? It seemed as though I was under a spell. This was ridiculous. I had to get back to facts. Hard facts.
Where did Dominic get this tale from?
He wouldn't be specific. Just said all of the village children round here knew. It was folklore.
Do you believe him?
I do know that some of the older boys were found to be holding séances last term. Dominic was one, and Graham Meredith another. I told you about the disciplinary warnings. The third boy, Tim Pierce, left of his own accord. Apparently they used to meet up with some local teenagers from Commerbourne and frighten themselves with incantations. Thinking about it, it probably was copying the ritual that Tabitha Blount described.
Again, that uneasy feeling. But I had to ask the question.
Who were the local teenagers? Did he say?
He only named one, and he became very frightened as soon as he'd said it. Annette Beck.
At that moment, Godfrey came into the staff room, and I think he drew his own conclusions as he switched on the light and saw us sitting in the corner. Jane looked at me with a conspiratorial smile.
I'd watch out if I were you.
She picked up her books and said good night. I hurried to my waiting pupils, trying to put Jane's information out of my mind. But one thought kept asserting itself. Something I had forgotten. The ring. Was this a normal token of commitment to another person? Or was it a pact with the devil? Was she one of his brides? Whilst the 5 boys laboured over the maths I had set them, I remembered I had to meet George after I finished the lesson. It wasn't a difficult decision not to tell him what I had just heard. After all, it was probably only the imagination of a schoolboy, embellishing a tale which my sceptical brother would certainly dismiss. That's what I told myself. But deep down I knew my unsettled feeling had more to do with Annette and my irrational need to protect her. George was on the dot outside at 6:45, and we went to the Red Lion.
The one and only pub in Fairford, did you know? I just wondered who we might bump into.
But there was no sign of Jeff Westcott that evening. We had a couple of drinks, and then as George was dropping me back at the old forge...
Thanks. I'll see you.
What's Lockie doing outside?
Sir, the chief's just rung through. He's been trying to locate you all evening. I'll get back to him. What are you doing out here? Annette wanted a breath of fresh air and asked if she could have a walk in the garden. I didn't think there was any harm. You're not paid to think. Get her back inside, quick. Sir.
Felse here, sir. I see. Where? What time? Right, I'm on my way.
Trouble?
A body's been found on the top, would you believe, of the Hallowmount.
Who? Have they identified
Not yet. I'm going out there now. Where's that girl? Lock her!
Yes, sir, she's here.
Right, stay inside, both of you. Be seeing you, Tom.
It wasn't until the next day that I was able to catch up on the latest developments. I rang George at his office, only to be told of the appalling news of the second murder.
Last night a body was found on the altar by a hill walker. There was a symbol daubed on the side of the rock. It was obviously some kind of a ritualistic killing.
But who was it?
It was Jeff Westcott.
The shock when I realised we'd only been speaking to Jeff that very morning took all the words from my mouth. And for the rest of the day, I was filled with a dread of what it could all mean.
There was a symbol daubed on the side of the rock. It was some kind of ritualistic killing.
It wasn't until much later, when I read the account of the murder in the evening paper and saw a sketch of this grisly sign, that I became aware of something niggling at the back of my mind.
I got some pretty strange warnings, if you like, and one of them had this weird symbol.
Slowly, the full force of the realization dawned upon me.
I'm afraid Miles won't be back for another 20 minutes or so. Would you like some tea while you wait? There's some in the pot.
Lovely, thanks. It was just I had a couple of things I wanted to ask him. He's one of the few people who've had any real contact with Annette, and...
Let me stop you, Tom. Because I know you're referring to when they were caught at Commerbourne Station. And I think you ought to know it didn't happen. Not quite as I told you, anyway. Everyone thinks they were running away together, but Miles never tried to go anywhere. With or without Annette Beck.
But they were picked up at the station, with 2 cases and 2 tickets to London.
Yes, 2 cases. But both of them were Annette's.
Both of them? But your husband would have known, surely.
Oh, my husband? Bill doesn't know his own shirts. I could filch a tie out of his drawer and give it him for his birthday and he wouldn't know.
Why didn't Miles explain and clear himself?
I don't know. I never asked. When Bill discovered them and jumped to conclusions, Miles did nothing to enlighten him. Nor did Annette. At first I thought Miles had bought the case specially for the jaunt. But I started to unpack it and discovered they were all Annette's clothes inside. I just didn't understand what was going on.
Did you confront Miles?
No. He seemed cut off. Very uncommunicative about the whole thing. I didn't want to come over as a prying mother, so I kept it to myself.
I see. So only Miles, and you, knew that he was covering up for whoever she was running off with. Eve, do you realise what this might mean?
I'm just beginning to.
If it wasn't Miles that time, could it be?
Yes. It could, couldn't it? It could be the same person.
And anything Miles knows, anything, may be vital. Anything she may have said to him, a name, or anyone he saw her with.
Hi, Mum.
Oh, here he is.
Oh, hello, sir.
Miles, I just dropped in to have a word with you, as a matter of fact. It won't take long.
I leave you to talk. I must put this letter in the post anyway.
Thanks. Have you seen the evening paper, Miles?
No.
Well, you may have already heard, but a body's been found up on the Hallowmount.
Oh, God. Who was it?
A youth by the name of Jeff Westcott. Did you know him?
Vaguely. He used to hang about with a crowd from the east side of the village.
What I've come about is... I'd like you to have a look at the report in this evening's paper. It's the same, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Once Miles had got over the dread of talking about the whole subject, our conclusions were seriously unnerving.
It was like the sign was a kind of signature. There was no name, just this at the bottom.
Yes. If it was as you say, then it could represent either an organisation or just one individual. And if it's the latter, it's likely
I know
that...
what you're going to say. If it's one individual, then the person who sent those messages to me is... Oh, my God.
But we've got to face it, Miles. If they are the same, then he's the same person who killed Jeff Westcott. And I think the only thing to do now is to go to the police and tell them what you know.
Oh, God. It said in those letters, if I did that, if I went to the police, something would happen. Something...
Yes, but this is serious now, Miles. You can't just let it go. You've got to speak to them. You must. So, I thought Miles had better speak to you himself.
I'm sorry, this looks rather like a deputation.
Not at all. Now, Miles...
Look, you won't believe this.
Miles, we agreed.
Yeah, I know, but he won't. I'm probably his #1 suspect.
No, you're not. We've already checked what you were doing at the weekend, and you're clear.
Oh. Well, you still won't believe me, because it all sounds so improbable. But that last time, when my father saw Annette and me on Commerbourne Station, it wasn't how it looked.
What do you mean?
Well, I never did plan to go away, anywhere. It wasn't me she was running off with. I've never had any kind of relationship with her. I've never said anything before, and I wouldn't now, except that...
Except he realises that somebody did plan to go away with her then. It might be that same person who took her away this time, mightn't it?
Yes. But there's more than that.
Go on, Miles.
Well, you see, after that, I started getting these weird letters. There were messages, cut-out letters from the newspapers.
Haven't you never told me this?
No, I know. It was very frightening.
Go on. What did they say, these letters?
They said things like, keep your hands off her, and other things like that. Some of them were quite obscene. But the general message was, leave Annette Beck alone and don't speak to her. And so I didn't. And I burnt them so my parents wouldn't find them.
Miles.
And there was another thing. Each one had this sign at the bottom. And it was the same as the sign found at the altar this morning.
Was it indeed? Now, let's just go back. How was it you were at the station with her if you weren't involved with her at all?
She had rung me and asked me to help her get away. She wanted to go to London. I knew it was wrong to help her leave like that, but she was very persuasive. And anyway, I did it. She said her father would be out and she'd have her cases packed, and would I fetch her and take her to the station at Commerbourne? And I said yes. And she asked me to get the tickets for her so she could slip in without being noticed at the booking office. And she said it was 2 tickets she wanted, not 1. Singles. And so I booked them for her, the day before she planned to leave.
You were very obliging to agree to do all that?
Not really. In a way, I didn't feel I had much choice.
What do you mean?
I don't know. There's something about her. You don't like to say no. It felt safer to go along with it.
All right. Look, let's get right to the point. Did she never drop a hint as to who she was meeting?
No.
Have you any idea who he might be?
No, none.
You didn't see her meet anyone?
No.
Are you telling me you never asked who he was or looked around to see if anyone was watching her?
No.
I find that hard to believe.
I'm sure he's telling the truth, Inspector.
I am. I swear I don't know.
OK. Is there anything else?
Well, you know how it ended, or rather you don't. Not quite. I meant to have the car back in the yard before Dad missed it. And 99 days out of 100 I could have done it, but it just happened that he had a call from a client who was breaking a train journey for one night at the station hotel and had some bit of business he wanted to clear up quickly. And, of course, there was no car. Dad thought it had been stolen, so he reported it to the police, and then he took a taxi across to the station. And the first thing he saw was his own car parked down the station approach. And that was it. There we were with 2 suitcases, and I had the 2 tickets in my hand. Actually, he was damn decent, considering.
And Annette never gave you any clue? You never noticed anything?
No, nothing.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in. I may want to contact you sometime, so leave your number with the sergeant at the desk.
Of course. Good night, Inspector.
Good night.
Oh, come along, Miles. We'll go home.
I thought you'd better hear that from Miles himself.
Yes, quite. The thing that links Miles and Jeff Westcott is they both knew or had been seen with Annette Beck. Miles was warned off and he took heed, but Jeff Westcott was more unreliable, less impressionable, and therefore more of a risk.
What are you suggesting? That Jeff Westcott received a message like Miles?
It's possible. Let's go over the facts. The one she was running off with must be from round here because of the tickets. He was going to board the train in Commerbourne. It's far more likely she'd get involved with someone she saw often.
Someone close to home.
And these black magic signs. Either he's using this hogwash to lead us off the scent, or it's serious. In which case, we've got a real nutter on our hands.
Was this the moment to tell George about the information Jane had gleaned from Dominic? Even if he didn't believe there was or had been a coven meeting on the Hallowmount, he would be forced to interrogate the boys, and that would cause untold problems at the school. And what of Annette? Her role in all of this would have to be questioned. Would it make the case against her worse, especially with Jeff Westcott's death in such satanic circumstances? My imagination was running haywire. I decided I must keep focused on the facts. Facts were what George relied on, and there must be a logical answer.
You know the way she reappeared? I keep thinking how odd that was.
What?
Well, do you remember your point about why he took the same route back and dropped her along the track behind the Hallowmount? I mean, let's say all the business in Birmingham is true and she was the girl. So that Tuesday, they were coming back from this love tryst. Why didn't he drop her at a more convenient place than on the other side of the Hallowmount? She'd have to climb all the way over the top. The way I see it, there must have been another reason why she was up there.
What could she have been doing?
She could have gone up there to hide something. Perhaps something neither of them wanted to risk taking home with her.
Such as £2,000 worth of jewellery. And the plan was to stash it away until such time as they could go off together for good.
Why wait? He had the girl, he had the money. Why not make off with them both while he had the chance?
Because he was confident there was nothing in the world to connect him with the murder. So to run would have been the quickest way of inviting suspicion.
Yes, it makes sense. And so they arranged for Annette to deposit it there, which meant her going that way back.
Yes, and it must be a very secure hiding place. The Mount was swarming with police this morning, and of course the area's been searched thoroughly for clues, though I doubt they'll have actually overturned any solid-looking rocks. You know, I'm beginning to get a feel for this man. It's in keeping to find they play with the police like this. It's a sign of overconfidence, and that's when they make their one final mistake, and then we nab them.
So, the next step is to go back there and search for this hiding place.
No, that's going to be our bait. He's going to come back and get it.
Surely he'll leave it for the moment.
No, next Thursday, I predict. By that time, he'll be wondering if we've discovered anything and generally getting very twitchy. Yes, I'll put a watch on the Hallowmount in case he goes to recover it. But watching the area during the day is not going to be so easy. It's so exposed up there, and the sight of a plainclothes policeman parading about at the top would frighten him off.
I know the geography department's taking a trip out that way next Thursday. And if there are about 40 boys all over the hill, it'll make dead certain nobody can hunt for anything there without being spotted. Whoever it is would have to wait till nightfall. But what if we should find the stuff ourselves? What do we do?
You leave it where it is, but don't let the place out of your sight.
Right. I'll arrange that then.
There's a phone call for you, Inspector, from CID.
Right. See you later then, Tom.
Life carried on as normally as it could with Annette and a virtual house arrest, and a policeman living in the spare room. I learnt later from George that this was anything but a quiet week for him, investigating the details gleaned from Jeff Westcott's death and interviewing Stockwood, the Blacklock's chauffeur, who was now #1 suspect.
Mr. Blacklock?
Oh, hello, Felse. I'm sorry I didn't hear you. Am I allowed to ask about Annette? We've been terribly anxious about her. There's nothing new.
No, we're still filling in details. Do you mind if I ask Stockwood a few questions?
No, of course not.
Actually, you could fill in the timing of the weekend for me yourself. Mrs. Blacklock went off to Gloucester on Thursday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Stockwood drove her down and brought back the car.
That's right.
You then gave him the whole weekend off, I understand.
Yes, until Wednesday, in fact. I said he could have use of one of the bikes, and he left about 6 o'clock. He came back prompt at noon on Wednesday, and then took the Bentley to Gloucester to bring Virginia back.
You didn't ask him where he'd spent the time?
No, I didn't. It's none of my business. It may well be your business, of course, so you ask him.
Which he did. But surly though he was, Stockwood provided him with an alibi that turned out to be rock solid. He'd been in jail all weekend, charged with drunken affray, which meant another dead end and the loss of another prime suspect.
Well, are you satisfied, Felse? I told you were barking up the wrong tree. I was sure Stockwood had nothing whatever to do with it.
Yes, I've finished with him for the time being.
Good. You know, Virginia and I are very worried about Annette. I know she seems deeply implicated, but we know her, you see, very well. It's impossible that she'd hurt or wrong anyone. Now, I know this isn't professional conduct, but I should be very grateful to you for some reassurance. A hint as to how you're thinking of her.
I think of her as a human being. A whole lot more complicated and dangerous than anyone seems to realise. But if it's any consolation to you, I don't think she's a murderess.
The following Wednesday, I got a phone call. It was George proffering the olive branch. He told me the inquiry was now focusing on where Annette and her companion could have stayed over the half-term weekend. And the investigation team had narrowed the possibilities down to 2 old friends of Annette's.
We discovered today the first one is a no-go. She lives in lodgings with 3 other girls and the landlady's on the premises too, so we could cross that one off. The second one's more hopeful. The girl's name is Mary Clarkson, and she lives in a first-floor flatlet in a quiet back street in Birmingham. And if I had a nice, presentable young man like you along with me, I think questioning her might be a little easier.
It was the day the geography outing was to take its stand on the Hallowmount. And as I happened to have no lessons on a Thursday, I was quite free.
Miss Mary Clarkson? Yes? I'm Detective Inspector Felse. Here's my ID, and this is Mr. Tom Felse. It's about Annette Beck. Could we come in?
Yes, of course. You were lucky to catch me in. I only got back this morning.
Did she know you were going away for such a long visit at half-term?
Yes, I did mention it in a letter I wrote to Annette.
Did she ever confide in you about any boyfriend she had?
No.
Have you seen her recently?
No, not for a good 6 months now.
Right. Well, we'll not take up any more of your time, Miss Clarkson. Thank you very much for your help.
Not at all. I'm sorry I couldn't have been of more use.
Where's the actual front door of the house?
Oh, that's round the corner in the other street. This was the back door originally, before the house was divided into 2 flats. And this high wall, you see, enclosed what was the backyard.
Has Annette ever visited you here?
Oh, yes, 2 or 3 times.
You never asked about coming again, or suggested that she might borrow the flat when you were away?
I did tell her that she could make use of it, even if I wasn't here. I told her to ask Mrs. Brooks for the spare key if she needed it. And I think I mentioned it to Mrs. Brooks, just in case she came.
I think we'd better have a word with Mrs. Brooks.
Do you really think?
Yes. Were there no signs of occupation when you got back?
Everything was just as I left it, but I hadn't really looked for anything. Why should I? I never even thought of it. Oh, Mrs. Brooks.
Oh, there you are, my dear. I was hoping you'd look in during the day sometime. Your friend was here last weekend. I gave her the key. That was all right. She thanked me so sweetly when she brought the key back on Tuesday evening.
Mrs. Brooks, was this the girl who came to stay?
Yes, that's her.
It just shows you how isolated you can be, even in a major city like Birmingham. A widow of 71 with no relations, groceries and laundry delivered, doesn't take a newspaper.
I felt strangely unsettled by the realization that she hadn't spent the 5 days lost inside the Hallowmount.
And just our luck to strike the only uninquisitive landlady this side of the equator.
But the truth was so ordinary, that she'd run away with a boyfriend. I suppose somebody in the street must have seen them.
The entrance is private. A motorbike could lie there in the yard and not be seen.
But as yet, no mention or glimpse of a man.
That's not surprising. With the old lady's windows facing the opposite way, watching TV most of the time, the fact she didn't see anyone doesn't mean much. And that's as far as we've got. Now, I've got to be on my way. Mrs. Brooks promised to ring me if she remembers any more details, so keep your fingers crossed. Hello, that's you, Tom?
No, sir, it's me, Duckett. 2 bits of news for you. First, we found a lad who lives 3 doors away from Mrs. Brooks's and plays football in the street. He kicked the ball over the wall into Mary Clarkson's yard on Friday morning and let himself in to fetch it. He says there was a motorbike propped on its stand inside there, a BSA 350.
Bingo! He didn't collect registrations.
Unfortunately, no. The second thing, Mrs. Brooks had an afterthought. She says there was mention of a man.
Yes?
She says when Annette Beck fetched the key on Thursday, she told her she'd probably be having a visitor during the weekend. Said he had to be in Birmingham, so I'd be looking in to see her.
Tell me.
And she said, now this'll shake you, she said it would be her father.
So, no luck on the Hallowmount as regards finding anything.
So if he's going to pick up anything they did leave there, it may well be tonight. Are the boys all down now?
All except Mars and Dominic. I left them there while I ran down to make this call. I'm going back to send them home so they can get some tea.
Can you hold on there until I come out to meet you?
Yes.
Good. I'll be along as soon as I've had a look in at the Becks.
Whenever you can make it, I'll be here. Did you turn up anything useful at your end?
Yes. Mrs. Brooks got back in touch. Remembered that Annette told her that she was expecting a visitor and apparently described him to her as her father. Does that suggest anything?
It does.
Well, it sounds as if we have to revise our ideas, doesn't it? I mean, why say that? Unless it was Beck. Or a man obviously respectable enough to pass for a father.
A father figure.
Yes. Any ideas?
No. No idea.
Well, give it some thought. I'll see you within the hour.
I put the receiver down and felt burdened by a secret I couldn't share. The drunken confession Beck had made to me in the small hours of that morning, after we had learned of the first murder. What implications did it have? If Beck was not her father, did Annette know this? When she told the landlady she was expecting her father, could she have meant the man everyone thought of as her father? Was Beck that man? Appalling as the idea was at first, I had to contemplate it. I had a strange feeling that that night was not going to be easy. Just how difficult it turned out to be, George told me later, though at the time I had no way of knowing what he'd find at Beck's house a few minutes after speaking to me.
Annette! 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 Oh, thank God. I've been trying to get through to you, sir, and it's gone. When? Quick! About 15 minutes ago. She can't be far. You shouldn't have let her out. I didn't. She collapsed. We were in the living room. She was laying with her head nearly in the arthur. I didn't like to move her, so I ran to get out. Where's Beck? I don't know. God! Go and search the house. 264 pulling HQ. Over. Right, Lockyer. I've called for reinforcements to join the search. Now, this is a right mess. How do you explain yourself? I told you she collapsed. How could I know it was an act? I ran for Mr. Beck, and when I came back, Annette was gone.
How long was she left on her own?
About 10 minutes.
10 minutes? What were you doing?
As I said, I was looking for Mr. Beck.
Where was he?
I don't know. I couldn't find him. That's why it took me so long.
Not hoping for promotion by any chance, are you? Right, and when you finally got back?
She was gone.
But why tonight? Why now? She chose her time. She had a reason. Has she had any letters, telephone messages?
No, I've been with her all the time.
No visitors?
Well...
Yes? Someone's been here?
About 4 o'clock, the vicar called to speak to Annette, and Mr. Beck was out. And I thought, well, surely she can see her own vicar. Even criminals are allowed that, and so...
So you let the vicar in? Was he left alone with her?
No, I was with her all the time.
Well, what did they have to say to each other? Come on! Everything you can remember.
He said he hoped she was bearing up, that she must pray for strength, you know, the usual sentiments. He said he was to tell her that the choir had missed her at practice and sent her their prayers. He said they took comfort in the thought that they would meet her at 6:30 at the altar.
What?
If only in spirit, he said, and that was about all.
There must be something you've missed. He didn't give her a note from someone else?
No, I'd have seen. Anyway, she seemed as though she was frightened
Tell
of
me
it.
again what he said. The choir had missed her.
They sent her their prayers, and they would meet her at 6:30 at the altar, if only in spirit.
6:30. At the altar? Oh, my God! 6:30, what's the time?
It's 20 to 7.
Come on, Locker, follow me. I know where to look.
Get a move on. Where are we going?
Top of the Hallowmount.
Top of the... What's she doing up there?
She's gone to meet her lover, or her murderer, in all likelihood, if we don't get there in time.
Who do you mean?
264 to HQ and proceeding to the Hallowmount. Repeat, the Hallowmount. Reinforcements to follow me there.
You think it's the vicar?
Hold on! The road finishes here and I'm going to go as far as I can.
Gordon Bennett!
That's it. Out. Quick! Tom's up there as well, and on his own. Come on!
So very still, not a sound. Such a peaceful place. Somehow up here it doesn't seem so strange anymore. They lived in the same house. She called him father. But they both knew there were no blood ties. Love could blossom, I suppose, like the plants on this windswept hill. They find some way of nurturing the little life they have, and no one suspects. No word is spoken, and the silence guards them. 6:30. Come on, George, where are you?
It was then, with the spell broken, that I became aware of a sound that had been hammering at my senses unnoticed for some minutes. It was coming not from the Fairford side, but from the direction of Abbott's Bale. I moved out to the edge of the slope and saw the small glowworm of a headlight weaving its way up, drawing steadily nearer until close beneath the altar it halted. The tiny light went out, and a dark figure detached itself from the motorbike and began to climb the slope. Suddenly, a tiny pool of light snapped on from a pencil torch. I could see the black outline of a small briefcase, but nothing more. Then he carefully opened the case, and I saw the glint of gold in the torchlight. But instead of gold, his right hand picked out a revolver. There was someone else coming. The figure with the torch and the gun turned round, and as he did so, in that instant, I saw and identified the murderer of both Jacob Worrell and Jeff Westcott.
Peter! Peter! Oh, Peter!
Oh, Anna. Oh, I thought you weren't coming.
I came as soon as I could. You knew I'd come.
Peter Blacklock.
We've got to hurry. The bike's down below. If we can get an hour's start, we can shake them. They won't look for us westward. But you haven't even got a coat. Here, you can wear my wind jacket. Now, come on. Hurry. They'll be after us soon.
Annette! Don't! Don't listen to him. Don't go with him. Don't! Don't!
Oh!
Don't go. You didn't kill anyone. Don't let him make you go.
Annette, go on ahead.
No, don't! It's all right, Tom. Don't shoot!
Annette, please. Get away. It's our only chance. Get off him, Annette.
No! You shan't! I won't let you!
Get up, Annette. There's no time.
No! You shan't touch him! I won't let you, not again!
Well, let him live then. I don't care. Anything, whatever you want, only come. Quickly. Get up, I won't hurt him. I won't touch him. Come on. We've only got a few hours at the most.
No! No! I'm not coming.
Annette!
There wasn't anything I wanted except you! Oh, why did you? Why did you? And now there's nothing to do except go back. Can you see that?
Annette!
I'll stay with you. Don't be afraid. As long as they let me, I'll stay with you. Only don't run! Oh, Peter, what have you done to yourself?
You must come. I gave you the ring. You pledged yourself to me. Annette, you can't abandon me.
I'm not. I shall be with you. Always. Everywhere. But I won't go away with you.
You want me, Jacob?
You know I don't.
You don't love me.
It's because I love you.
Then you've got to come with me. You shall come with me or... Don't make me, Annette.
Yes, do it. Go on. Kill me. I want you to. Do it, Peter. I mean it. Then I'll be there, waiting for you. And you won't be alone or afraid. Do it!
No! No!
See what you can do for Tom!
No! She never meant to. She wasn't going to.
It's all right, it's all right.
She only went there to persuade him to give himself up.
Don't worry about anything.
No, she's dead. She's dead.
No.
She's safe. It's all right,
Annette!
Hello, Tom. Feeling stronger?
George.
I've come to help stop these nightmares you've been having.
Nightmares? What nightmares?
I've been given permission to come and tell you what happened that night. They said they thought the truth would aid your recovery.
What? The night on the Hallowmount?
You lost a lot of blood, and I don't think you were conscious of all that happened, were you?
No.
Annette's safe, Tom. She's at home with her father.
But the gunshot?
That was Peter Blacklock. He turned the gun on himself when he realised the game was up.
Peter Blacklock, yes. I remember seeing his face in the torchlight. Of all people.
It rather took me by surprise, I must admit. Of course, by committing suicide like that, we'll never know the whole truth behind the way his mind worked. But we've enough solid evidence now to close the files on the jeweller and on Jeff Westcott, too.
He killed him then? Why?
He was obviously disturbed, though on the surface he appeared completely normal. We found writings in his room in the manor. It seems he was obsessed. He couldn't bear the thought of any other man being with her. So when it became known, for instance, that Miles had been at the station with her, he sent him those warning messages to really scare him off. And it worked. There was no reason for him to worry as it happened. Miles had no intention of making a play for her before or after that escapade. But Peter Blacklock didn't know that. Perhaps Annette had let drop some complimentary comment about Miles. It doesn't take much with obsessional paranoia to set it off.
And the same for Jeff Westcott?
Yes, except Annette had been seen with him once or twice. Peter Blacklock was obviously a very dangerous man. The obsession with her grew, and it seems she fell in love with him. But there was more to it than that. He seemed to have some power over her.
What do you mean?
It was as though she would do whatever he commanded. When he realized we were guarding her closely, he disguised himself as the vicar and made sure Beck was out. We think now he'd been watching the house pretty constantly, and so he managed to speak with her, though, of course, because of Lockyer's presence, it all had to be in code. But she understood, and because of that she went ahead and carried out a plan of escape there and then. Whether he actually did practice satanic arts or just used such stories to maintain an influence over her, we'll never know. The secret's gone with him to the grave. Certainly Annette will never be the one to say.
And it was Annette who hid the briefcase?
Yes, she hid it, then walked over the crest and came face to face with you.
But she can't have known what was in the case. He can't have told her.
All she knew was he told her to hide it, and so she did.
But the night after she disappeared, I thought Blacklock had rung up on that Friday night to inquire about Annette's absence.
That was another part of his cunning. He divided his time very delicately. On Thursday, he took Annette to Birmingham. On Friday at dusk, he left her there and came back to choir practice and went through that little performance of inquiring after her, offering to go around and see if she was fit to have visitors. And then he went back to her and stayed with her until Sunday morning. What happened on Saturday night, you know. Whether it was planned or not is still uncertain. One thing we do know, if he was going to run away with Annette for good, he needed money.
Needed money? He was rolling in it.
No, the money was all his wife's. If ever he wanted anything, he had only to ask her and she bought it for him. But he had nothing. Maybe he didn't miss it, until he wanted something he couldn't ask her to buy for him.
And Annette's safe?
Quite safe. Don't worry anymore, Tom. She'll get over it. She's a normal, healthy young girl. Just needs to grow up a bit. Well, that's enough of one visit, Tom. You're looking tired. I'll come back tomorrow.
And he left. I lay quite still, listening to my own breathing, thinking over all he'd told me. On the surface, it was all logical, totally rational. But there was something that was not quite right. Something more. Annette Beck. There was something about her I still couldn't fathom. It's true George had dealt with the facts and found a solution that seemed to fit. But 30 years later, I've come to realize that life isn't like maths. It isn't a simple equation, because it doesn't always obey the rules.
I'm here, Peter. I've come back. I said I'd never leave you. And now, we'll be together. Always. This is the place, Peter. The altar is a sacred place. Didst know? 'Tis the doorway between heaven and earth. If ye lie here, quite still, at midnight, and look straight up into the night sky and call 3 times to the spirits, they hear thee and come down to thee. It's true. I've always known it. And because thy blood was spilled in this place, you will hear, and you will come. And then you can claim my spirit for yourself. And We will live again. In a new life. I'm ready. You can come now. I was lost, Peter. Lost. But now, I'm found.
In Flight of a Witch by Ellis Peters, dramatised by Sally Hedges, Ewan Thomas played Tom Felse, Rob Spendlove, Detective Inspector George Felse, and Michael Tudor Barnes, Peter Blacklock. Annette and Tabitha were played by Deborah Berlin, Arthur Beck by Ian Brooker, Miles Mallandine, Roger May, and Eve Mallandine, Sarah Coward. Joyce Gibbs played Mrs. Brooks and Tabitha's mother, Susan Jeffrey, Jane Darrell and Dr. Lloyd, James Thackeray, Godfrey and Duckett, and Richard Curnow, Dominic. Lockyer and the priest were played by Mark Finn, Jeff, Alex Jones, and Mary Clarkson, Lisa Roche. The music was composed and played by Anthea Gomez. Flight of a Witch was directed at Pebble Mill by Sue Wilson.
A comedy thriller starring the late Mary Wimbush and Doreen Mantle as a pair of librarians who find that fact can be as strange, if not stranger, than fiction.
On August the 4th, a packet of fondant fancies was stolen from Mrs. Markham's cake shop. It was the worst crime committed in Langston all year. Even in the troubled 21st century, our village remained a haven of peace and tranquillity. And perhaps the most peaceful and tranquil place of all was Langston Public Library, where I worked with my sister, Margaret.
Excuse me, do you have webbed toes and other abnormalities of the feet?
I believe there's a copy in the medical section, Dr. Fish. I'll go and have a look.
Although our work afforded us little in the way of excitement, we never allowed ourselves to grow bored. If time hung heavily on our hands, we simply reached for a volume of our favourite detective writer.
You can't beat a good Agatha Christie, can you, Dorothy?
Quiet, dear, I'm trying to read. The elegantly plotted crimes investigated by Miss Marple seemed far removed from our everyday lives. Or so we thought. But something was about to happen which would change forever how we viewed our placid community. Murder was coming to Langston.
Murder by the Book by Stephen Sheridan.
Oh, it's a disgrace. An utter disgrace.
I've made your toast and marmalade.
Put down the tray. And pour me a cup of tea.
Yes, Uncle Ernest.
And when you've finished, you can take a look at this morning's Herald.
Can't you just read it to me?
Oh, for pity's sake, Colin, surely you can manage a simple newspaper article on your own.
I'll do my best, but you may have to help me out with some of the longer words.
There's a feature on Langston Public Library. Apparently, it's about to celebrate its 100th birthday.
Oh, yes.
There's even going to be a little reception to mark the event.
That's nice. Will you be going?
Going? Are you trying to be funny?
No, I just thought that,
I own Langston's only bookshop, you half-wit. Every time somebody uses that library, I lose out on a sale. The last thing I want to do is celebrate the fact that it's still open.
I wish you wouldn't call me names.
What?
I know I can be a little slow sometimes, but it isn't fair to keep on calling me a half-wit.
No, stop giving yourself airs and graces. You're as thick as a concrete slab, and don't you forget it.
No, Uncle Ernest. Sorry, Uncle Ernest. Would you like me to see who's at the front door?
No, Colin.
I'd like you to stand on your head in the corner. Of course I'd like you to see who's at the front door. And be quick about it. We're due at the bookshop in another 20 minutes.
Hold on, I'm just coming.
Good morning, Colin. Is your uncle at home?
Who is it?
Mrs. Shelton from next door.
You've come to complain about the television again. You're wasting your breath.
You needn't worry, Mr. Pepper. I've bought myself a pair of earplugs. I just thought you might want these.
What are they?
A couple of letters addressed to you. The postman delivered them to my house by mistake.
He's always doing that. He gave us a couple of yours the other week.
Really? I shall be having words with his mother the next time we play bridge. I trust you kept them.
I'm afraid not. We don't all have time to redirect other people's mail.
I beg your pardon?
I'm really sorry, Mrs. Shelton, but Uncle Ernest made me tear them up.
I'd kill him. May God strike me down if I don't.
Mrs. Shelton! Mrs. Shelton! Wait!
I'm sorry, Colin, but if you've been sent to apologise, you are wasting your time.
I know you're upset, but I wanted to give you these. Don't tell Uncle Ernest, but I didn't tear them up.
Oh, you are a good boy, Colin. Mr. Pepper doesn't deserve you.
I'm sorry if he made you angry. I don't know why he does it.
Well, he's an absolute monster. It's as simple as that. But he'll get his comeuppance. And sooner than he thinks.
Isn't it quiet? We can't have lent out more than half a dozen books all morning.
No, I'm afraid people aren't as interested in reading as they once were. Even Major Blewett tells me that he's bought himself a PlayStation.
Perhaps the local authority will allow us to stock games for it.
I hardly think so, dear. They still haven't forgotten what you did with their consignment of DVDs.
How was I to know they weren't to be used as ornamental placemats? I'd never seen a DVD before.
At least when people do rediscover the joys of reading, we'll be their first port of call. The only other purveyor of books in Langston is Ernest Pepper, and who in their right mind would want to visit him?
Where do you want these?
Put them in the corner. Then go out the back and tidy the stock room.
Can't I take a rest? I've been carrying around boxes all morning.
Now, stop feeling sorry for yourself. A spot of hard work never killed anyone.
No, Uncle Ernest.
And don't lean on the counter. There's a customer in the shop.
Excuse me. I wonder if you can help.
Certainly, sir. What would you like?
I've just got back from university. My tutor says there are 1 or 2 books I need to buy.
1 or 2? Oh, excellent.
Here, he's written me out a list.
Oh, thank you. Critical approaches to Shakespeare. Oh, that sounds familiar.
So, which university are you at?
Don't bother the customers, Colin.
Sorry, Uncle Ernest.
Ah, yes, here we are. I knew we had it in stock.
Oh, terrific. Can I take a look?
Certainly.
Ah.
What's the matter?
25 quid. Isn't that a little steep?
On the contrary. It's a perfectly fair price. This is an antiquarian bookshop, not a branch of Oxfam.
I know it is, but I've used up my student loan already.
Have you thought of trying the library?
I'm sorry?
They've got thousands of books, haven't they, Uncle Ernest? And they don't cost a bean.
I thought I told you not to bother the customers.
My parents have only just moved to Langston. I didn't think anywhere so small would have its own library.
No, it's a complete waste of space, believe me. They won't have a thing you're looking for.
Even so. It's got to be worth checking them out.
But what about critical approaches to Shakespeare?
You better put it back on the shelf. There's no point in paying 25 quid if I can get it for nothing.
Well, I hope you're satisfied.
What's the matter, Uncle Ernest?
Langston Library already steals away most of my customers. Was it really necessary to send them one of the few I had left?
He didn't have any money. You heard what he said.
Oh, he was bluffing, you half-wit. A 5-year-old child could see that.
Don't call me a half-wit. If you say that one more time, I'll...
You'll what?
Nothing.
Exactly. You're almost as big a coward as you are a fool. Now, get out the back and tidy the stockroom. I don't want to set eyes on you again until we close.
Here we are, dear. Critical approaches to Shakespeare. Oh, it's a little worn around the edges, I'm afraid.
Well, at least you've got it. That's the main thing.
Of course, if you want to borrow it, you'll have to join the library.
Well, that's all right. I filled in the application form already.
Oh, that's very resourceful of you, dear. Robin Ringwood. Oh, what a charming name.
We may have to order one or two of the other titles on your list. If you leave us your number, we'll phone you when they arrive.
This place is better than I expected. The old guy in the bookshop made it sound like a complete dump.
Oh, you don't want to take any notice of Mr. Pepper, dear. He's a notorious liar.
Dorothy, I think that's a little strong.
No, Margaret, don't be so wet. He's the most hated man in Langston, and you know it.
He's certainly rather a bully, I'm afraid.
Oh, he's worse than that. He's an utter tyrant. When I think of the way he treats his poor sweet nephew, I could quite happily strangle him with my bare hands.
I'm starting to wish I hadn't mentioned him. I thought you'd all get on together like a house on fire. After all, you are in the same trade.
Don't say that. We want our books to provide people with pleasure and information. Ernest Pepper is only interested in how much his are worth.
Yeah, well put, Margaret. You're absolutely right. You and I have nothing in common with that horrible man.
So, what would you pay me for a first edition? I see. Not bad.
Uncle Ernest?
What is it? I'm on the telephone.
It's almost closing time. Can I come out of the stock room?
I'll call you back. I've got to shut up the shop.
What would you like me to do? Fetching the books on the table outside?
Yes, and make sure you don't drop any.
I won't. Why are you always criticising me?
Because you're a half-wit. It's the only way you'll ever learn.
You've said it again.
Said what? Oh, stop gibbering, boy.
I told you not to call me a half-wit, but you just wouldn't listen. Well, you've said it for the last time.
What you talking about? What you going to do?
Something I should have done years ago. I'm sorry, Uncle Ernest, but you're never going to torment me again.
Oh, drat this computerised system.
What's the matter, dear? Won't it come on?
Oh, running a library never used to be this difficult. When we first started, all you needed was a rubber stamp, an ink pad, and a nice box of index cards.
Perhaps you'd better call out the engineer.
Oh, certainly not. He's got tattoos on his forearms, and you know how I feel about them.
But, Dorothy, we're open in 10 minutes.
Well, you'd better make yourself useful, then. Oh, there's a terrible draught blowing around my kidneys.
Someone's left a window open in the crime section. I'll go and shut it.
Oh, there's definitely something wrong with this mouse. I keep on clicking away, but nothing seems to happen.
Dorothy!
No, it's all right. I can see the problem. The wires come unplugged at the back.
Quickly, Dorothy! Call the police!
Margaret, whatever's the matter? Why, you're as white as a sheet.
It's Ernest Pepper. I just found him in the crime section.
But we're not open yet. I hope you asked him to leave.
I couldn't. You don't understand. He's dead.
Dead?
And there's blood everywhere. Oh, Dorothy, I think he's been murdered.
We'll have to wait for the pathologist's report, but it looks as though he was killed by a single blow to the back of the head. Are you getting this?
Single blow to back of head. Yes, sir.
But why was he murdered in our library? That's what I don't understand. He always used to say that he wouldn't be seen dead in the place.
I take it these are the policemen you called in?
Yes, that's right, dear. The one examining the body is Detective Inspector Cornish, and the one with the notebook is Detective Sergeant McBride.
I'm sorry I wasn't here to welcome you in person, gentlemen. I had to go and sit out the back with my head between my knees.
Now, there's no need to apologise, madam. You can't help being squeamish.
No, the Detective Sergeant is quite right, dear. It's just another of your failings.
How familiar were you with the deceased?
I'm sorry?
He had a glass eye, didn't he?
That's right, Inspector, but how did you know?
I've just found it lying under one of these shelves.
Poor Mr. Pepper. It must have been knocked out when he was struck from behind.
Can you think of anyone who might have wanted to kill him?
Well, it's hard to think of anyone who wouldn't. He was hardly the most popular man in Langston, I'm afraid.
Oh?
Even Dorothy recently said that she'd like to strangle him with her bare hands.
Did she know?
That was just a figure of speech, Inspector. I didn't really mean it.
I take it you do have an alibi for the time of the murder?
If he was killed yesterday night, then I was tucked up in bed with a moving finger.
The moving finger?
One of Miss Marple's most baffling cases. Are you a fan of Agatha Christie, Inspector?
No, I'm not. She always makes her policemen look like pea-brained incompetents.
Careful, sir. You're, kneeling in the victim's blood.
Oh, damn.
But I can assure you that I wasn't anywhere near the scene of the crime when Mr. Pepper was murdered.
I don't suppose you were, madam. McBride will need to take a formal statement from you nonetheless. But before he does...
Yes?
See if you can rustle me up a cloth, will you? I've just had these trousers dry cleaned.
I knew it! I knew he was the killer right from the start.
You haven't finished the moving finger already. I'm only halfway through the murder at the vicarage.
That's because you're a plodder, dear. Father always said so.
I'm not a plodder, Dorothy. I just like to take my time.
Oh, well, I may as well go and prune the roses for half an hour. They look as though they need it.
I do wish you wouldn't stand in front of the window, dear. You're blocking all the lights.
Oh, I think we're about to receive another visit from those police officers. Their car's just pulled up outside.
I can't say I cared much for Inspector Cornish. He seemed a trifle brusque.
Policemen aren't as well-mannered as they were in Miss Marple's day, I'm afraid. I heard a detective constable say sod it the other night on Midsummer Murders.
Good evening, ladies. Do you mind if we come in?
Of course not, Inspector. Margaret will pour you both a glass of sherry wine.
We won't stay long, but we do have a bit of good news for you.
Oh?
Yes, sir. We finished our work at the library, so you can open it up again tomorrow morning.
Oh, thank heavens for that. We haven't known what to do with ourselves all day.
We do need to ask you a few more questions, though.
There you are, gentlemen. Drink up.
Thank you very much.
What can you tell us about Colin, Mr. Pepper's nephew?
Oh, he's a delightful boy. Not especially bright, of course, but no worse than Margaret.
Dorothy.
He's lived with his uncle since his parents died.
We understand that Mr. Pepper didn't treat him very well.
Well, you'll have to ask him about that.
We'd love to, but unfortunately he's, disappeared.
Disappeared?
Yes, we spoke to a Mrs. Shelton, his next-door neighbour. She says no one set eyes on him since yesterday evening.
Well, surely you don't think he's implicated in the murder?
Maybe his uncle bullied him once too often and sent him over the edge. It happens all the time, doesn't it, McBride?
Yes, sir.
Well, I've never heard of anything so absurd. If Colin was going to murder his uncle, why on earth would he choose to do it in our library?
No doubt he'll furnish us with a full explanation when we catch up with him. And that's where you come in.
I'm not sure I follow.
We aren't going to find him until we know what he looks like. So there's something we need you to do.
That wasn't a very accurate description, was it?
I'm sorry?
Well, Colin doesn't have a ginger afro or a waxed moustache.
Oh, I know he doesn't. I deliberately misled Inspector Cornish to throw him off the scent.
But isn't that illegal?
Well, Colin's a sweet boy, but very naive. And if the police get hold of him, he'll say whatever they want.
Poor Colin. I only wish we could do more to help.
Perhaps we can. Who's our favourite writer?
Agatha Christie, of course.
And who's our favourite detective?
Miss Marple.
And what would Miss Marple do if a murder was committed right under her nose?
She'd try to catch the killer. But surely you're not suggesting that...
Do you think Colin murdered his uncle?
Of course not. He wouldn't harm a fly.
Then it's up to us to find out who did.
We can't do that. We're members of the public.
Oh, you're forgetting, dear. So was Miss Marple.
But we could be placing ourselves in the most terrible danger.
Oh, no, don't be so wishy-washy, Margaret. If we don't help him, Colin will probably spend the rest of his life locked up in jail.
Oh, we don't have any choice then, do we? It's up to us to save the day.
That's the spirit. I knew you wouldn't let me down.
Everything's so confusing, though. Where on earth are we going to start?
At the same place as every other detective, dear. The scene of the crime.
Have you found anything yet?
Oh, it's very dark under these shelves. I knew I should have brought a torch.
What are you doing on your hands and knees? Have you dropped something?
Oh, hello, Robin.
I wanted to know if you had a book in stock. But if you're busy...
We won't be a moment, dear. We're just looking for clues.
Looking for clues?
Shush.
I expect you've heard that Mr. Pepper was murdered here the other night.
Well, of course I have. It's all over the papers.
Well, Dorothy thinks that the police are pursuing the wrong man. So we've decided to catch the killer ourselves.
You can't be serious. You're librarians, for pity's sake.
There is nothing wrong with being a librarian, dear.
I didn't mean it like that.
Oh, help me up, will you? My lumbago's giving me...
I just don't think you should be involving yourselves in murder cases, that's all. I'm sure the police know what they're doing.
You obviously haven't met them.
Dorothy was hoping she might find some evidence they'd overlooked.
That's hardly likely, is it? Their forensics team will have gone over the site with a fine-tooth comb.
You think we're being ridiculous, don't you? You think we're just a pair of foolish old women.
Stop trying to make me feel guilty. You know I don't think anything of the kind.
Then why don't you do something to help us?
I'm sorry, but I'm not going to encourage you to meddle. Although...
Yes, dear?
I'll probably regret saying this, but there is something you could try. Have you ever heard of America's flagging program?
I don't think so, dear. But it sounds very festive.
Apparently, the FBI used to monitor all the books that people borrowed from libraries. If someone kept on taking out books on murder, they knew they might have a killer on their hands. I saw about it in a film.
Really, dear? Which one?
Oh, never mind that, Margaret. I think I can see what Robin's driving at.
You must have records of every book you've lent out over the last 6 months. If you go through them all, you may find a clue to the killer's identity.
I don't know. That sounds rather complicated to me.
Oh, don't be such a defeatist, Margaret. It's a wonderfully simple idea. All we have to do is call up our records on the library's computer. What could be more straightforward than that? Oh, damn and blast!
Language, Dorothy.
I've been sitting at this keyboard since we closed. Why does modern technology have to be so difficult?
Perhaps if you tried pressing the button in the corner.
Oh, I hardly think so, dear. If I can't access our records, I don't hold out much hope for you.
There.
Oh.
I asked Robin to show me what to do whilst you were fetching him that book.
Oh, I'm surprised he confided in you. I thought I was the one he liked.
If you hold down the scroll key, you can run through the entire list.
Oh. I see Major Lewis borrowed the Kama Sutra again.
I'm surprised he's still interested at his age. He must be 80 if he's a day.
Yes, it's no wonder his limp's been getting so bad. Hello. What have we here?
What is it?
The Murderer's Handbook, the People Who Get Away with Murder, and the Oxford Anthology of Real-Life Crime.
Oh, Dorothy, I think we're making progress.
And they've all been borrowed by the same person. Mrs. Amelia Shelton.
Amelia Shelton?
Yes, dear. Ernest Pepper's next-door neighbour.
She isn't answering, Dorothy. She can't be hidden.
Well, I hope her stair lift hasn't jammed again. She was stuck in mid-air for 6 hours last week.
It's all right. I think I can hear her coming.
Now, remember, we just want to look around for clues. We mustn't say anything to make her suspicious.
We'll be lucky if she lets us into the house at all.
You needn't worry about that. I've thought of the perfect excuse to get us inside.
I'm sorry, but they don't appear to be on the shelf.
Well, perhaps you put them somewhere else.
I must say, I am a little surprised by your visit. I hadn't realised that librarians collected overdue books in person.
Oh, it's a new policy, isn't it, Margaret?
Is it? I mean, yes, dear, it is.
And yours should have been back last week.
Perhaps I'd better check in the conservatory.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Shelton.
I've a feeling I may have left them next to the chaise longue.
I told you I'd get us inside. Now go and stand by the door, Margaret. I want to know the instant she comes back.
Why? What are you going to do?
I'm going to search the room for incriminating evidence, of course.
I'm sorry, dear, but I find it hard to believe that Mrs. Shelton's a cold-blooded killer. She used to play the cymbals with the Salvation Army.
Living next door to Mr. Pepper would probably drive anyone to murder. Oh, perhaps it was a crime of passion.
A crime of passion?
Well, Mrs. Shelton's been a widow for nearly 20 years, and Mr. Pepper wasn't entirely unattractive, in a very poor light.
Don't you think you're getting a little carried away with yourself? You haven't a scrap of proof.
Ah, now, haven't I? How do you explain this?
What is it?
A postcard from Burnham-on-Sea. It's hard to decipher the childish handwriting, but I think it's from Colin.
No.
It's addressed to his Uncle Ernest. He says he's well and tells him not to worry.
Does he say where he's living?
Flat 7 Seaside Towers, the Parade.
I don't understand, Dorothy. Why would Colin send a postcard to a dead man?
Oh, that's a very good question. And more to the point, what was it doing in Mrs. Shelton's bureau?
The postman delivered it to my house by mistake.
Oh.
Yes, he's always doing things like that.
Oh, Mrs. Shelton. Oh, you made me jump. I hadn't expected you back so soon.
Evidently. May I ask why you've been going through my personal effects?
Oh, yeah, we recognised the view of Burnham Pier and we wanted a closer look.
Well, it arrived in the post this morning. I haven't decided what to do with it yet.
Aren't you going to give it to the police?
And help them find Colin? Certainly not.
Well, you don't think he killed his uncle, then?
The whole thing's absurd. That dreadful little inspector will probably decide that I did it next.
Oh, I'm sure no one could ever think that, Mrs. Shelton.
Yes, well, you don't sound entirely convinced. I hope you're not implying that I could have...
No, of course not.
Good.
Dorothy just wants to know why you've been reading all those books on murder.
Thank you, Margaret. That was very tactful.
I can't say I care for being questioned in my own home, but, if you must know, I needed them for my work.
Your work, Mrs. Shelton?
Yes. I'm preparing a lecture.
A brief history of murder.
Now, will you join me in a glass of brandy?
Honestly, Dorothy, I still can't believe it.
I suppose we should have guessed, really. Mrs. Shelton has always been a big noise in the Women's Institute.
At least we know why she's been reading up on the subject.
Oh, we know a great deal more than that, dear. Look.
Colin's postcard.
I slipped it into my pocket while Mrs. Shelton wasn't looking.
You've always been light-fingered, Dorothy. Don't think I never guessed who used to swipe all my dolly mixtures when we were young.
Drink up, dear. Then I think we ought to turn in. We have a busy day ahead of us tomorrow.
Oh?
As soon as the library closes, we are going to Burnham. I think it's time we heard Colin's side of the story.
He can't be at home. We've been ringing his doorbell for hours.
I do wish you wouldn't exaggerate, dear. If I've told you not to do it once, I've told you 1,000,000 times.
Yes?
Colin! Whatever's happened? You look terrible.
Have you got the police with you?
Of course not. We're just here to visit.
Then I suppose you'd better come in.
You could do with a shave, dear. When did you last take a bath?
I can't remember. It's hard to care when the police think you've killed someone.
You've heard about Mr. Pepper, then?
I found out just after I sent him that postcard. I bought myself some fish and chips, and when I got back, I saw that they'd been wrapped up in Uncle Ernest's face.
Yes, I'm afraid his murder generated a lot of coverage in the press. How much were you able to read?
They used a lot of long words, and the grease didn't help. But I know they think I did it.
You can't blame them for being suspicious, dear. Why did you leave Langston on the night of the murder?
I had an argument with Uncle Ernest. He kept on calling me a half-wit, and I'd had enough.
So you decided to teach him a lesson by leaving home?
I only wish I'd stayed. It's lonely here in Burnham.
And now the police think you're a killer.
Oh.
That's right, Margaret. Rub it in.
Sorry, dear.
Now, you mustn't panic, Colin. We won't let anything bad happen to you, now will we?
Of course not.
But we do need your help. Can you think of anything that might have got your uncle killed?
I don't think so. Except...
Yes?
Uncle Ernest was murdered in your library, wasn't he?
We found him face down in the crime section. Oh, it was horrible.
On the afternoon I left, I was working in the stockroom. Uncle Ernest often sent me out there if I'd made him angry. I was lifting boxes off the shelves when I heard someone come into the shop. He started talking with Uncle Ernest, and I think he mentioned the library. It must have been important because Uncle Ernest came back to see me.
You're very quiet in here. I hope you haven't been eavesdropping.
No, Uncle Ernest, of course not.
Well, see that you don't. If I catch you listening in, you'll feel the back of my hand.
I didn't dare listen to much more, but I'm sure they said something about a book, a valuable book. And then something strange happened. I haven't heard Uncle Ernest laugh since my cat was run over, but he suddenly started to chuckle.
It's too funny for words. Those daft old biddies are sitting on a fortune, and they haven't got a clue.
Daft old biddies? Whoever did he mean?
Think carefully, Colin. Have you any idea who visited your uncle that afternoon?
I didn't really see him or hear his voice. He spoke in a sort of whisper.
If you remember anything more about him, contact us at once. We'll be back home in Langston continuing our investigation.
But aren't you taking me with you?
I think it's best if you stay here for the time being. Keep yourself to yourself and try not to worry. Oh, and Colin.
Yes?
For the sake of your neighbours, please take a bath. A falling out of thieves. That's clearly what happened.
I'm sorry, dear.
It seems we had a very valuable book on our shelves.
As far as I'm concerned, they're all valuable.
Oh, to their readers perhaps, but I doubt if they'd fetch much on the open market. Except for one.
I'm not sure I follow.
Somebody must have spotted it on our shelves and gone to Mr. Pepper for his professional opinion. No doubt they agreed to steal it together. But obviously something went wrong and Mr. Pepper ended up dead.
And you worked out all that from what Colin told you?
Well, I'd like to think all those years reading Agatha Christie haven't been entirely in vain.
We must go to the police and tell them what we've discovered.
Oh, you're forgetting, dear. We haven't any proof. I'm afraid they'd simply ignore us.
But there must be something we can do.
We need to find out who was in the library with Mr. Pepper. Oh, but that's always been the case. I'm sorry to say it, but we're back to square one.
The Perfumed Garden? I'm sorry, Major Blewett. We don't have that title in stock.
What a pity. The wife's just been fitted with an artificial hip, and we want to try out something new.
Oh, we can always order you a copy.
Eh?
We can always order you a copy.
Oh.
You just need to fill out this little card.
Afternoon, ladies. I'm not interrupting anything, am I?
Oh, of course not, Robin. We're never too busy for you.
Is this where I write my address?
Here, let me. My hands are more steady.
Thank you.
I'm going back to university next week, so I thought I'd better return all the books I've borrowed.
We'll miss having you around, won't we, Margaret?
That's right, Major Blewett. Sign at the bottom.
How's the investigation going? You still haven't found Mr. Pepper's killer, I take it?
No, I'm afraid not. We did manage to track down Colin, though. Your idea of checking our records worked a treat.
I only suggested it to keep you out of mischief. I didn't think you'd find anything.
Major Sebastian Blewett.
Sadly, Colin was less helpful than we've been expecting. Unless we think of something else, we'll have to let the police catch the killer on their own.
I can't say I'm sorry. Anyone who can hit a man hard enough to knock out his glass eye must be pretty violent. I wouldn't want you tangling with a creature like that.
Margaret, are you asleep?
Go there.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Margaret, wake up!
Dorothy, whatever's happened, it's the middle of the night.
Put your teeth in and come down to the kitchen. We need to talk.
Talk? What about?
About Mr. Pepper. Oh, Margaret, I think I know who killed him.
I simply can't believe it.
I made us both a nice cup of tea. It's good for shock.
You must tell the police what you've worked out.
Well, as I've said before, they'll want concrete proof, but I think I know how to get it.
Oh?
What does Miss Marple do when she wants to catch a killer red-handed?
She sets a trap.
Precisely. And so shall we. Now, I hope you're in the mood for a little more travel. We're going back to Burnham again, first thing tomorrow morning.
Oh.
Now then, Colin, are you sure you understand what you have to do?
I think so.
I'll dial the number, but you'll have to do all the talking.
Isn't this exciting? I'm covered in goosebumps.
It's ringing.
Remember what I told you to say.
Hello? This is Colin Pepper. Don't talk, just listen. I know you killed my Uncle Ernest.
Oh, you're doing splendidly, dear.
I don't care that he's dead. I always hated him anyway, but I want money.
Now, arrange a meeting place.
If you don't want me to go to the police, you'll come to Langston Parish Church. The vicar never locks it, so we can discuss terms inside.
You've almost finished, dear.
Meet me there at midnight, and make sure you come on your own. Oh.
You were wonderful, dear. Let me give you a hug.
I need it. Look, I'm trembling.
I can't believe how good you were. Oh, I'm so proud of you.
I'm just glad it's over, that's all.
I only wish it were, Colin. We've baited our trap, but we've yet to catch our prey. I'm afraid the dangerous part is only just beginning.
I must want my head examining.
Sorry, sir.
I should be tucked up in a nice warm bed by now, not crouching behind some tombstone in Langston Churchyard.
Yeah, well, there's no harm in seeing what happens. I mean, it's not as if we've got any other leads to follow.
I only hope none of our colleagues find out we've let two little old ladies embroil us in them madcap schemes. We'll both be laughed off the force. Shh, what is it?
I thought I heard something.
I expect it's my stomach. I haven't eaten for hours.
No, there he is again.
Good evening, gentlemen.
What are you doing here? I thought he told you to stay at home.
Colin didn't want to come here on his own, and I can't say I blame him.
Where is the Pepper boy, anyway?
He's just going into the church now.
Is that him? I didn't recognise him without his ginger afro.
With any luck, the killer will be along shortly.
He better be. Otherwise I'll run the lot of you in for wasting police time.
Don't be so negative, Inspector. Our plan is absolutely foolproof.
Except for one thing.
I'm sorry.
I've just thought. We're all expecting the killer to follow Colin into the church. But what if he's inside already?
Colin!
Colin, are you all right?
Oh, if anything's happened to him, I'll never forgive myself.
He hit me on the back of the head.
Oh, thank heavens! You're alive!
He was going to do it again, but he heard you coming.
Where is he, lad?
He ran off towards the back of the church.
Well, he won't get out that way.
Look, Inspector, there he is.
Give it up, son. It's over.
Look out! He's running for the door.
It's all right. Got him. Well done, the Freud.
Let's see who's under the ski mask.
Struggling, damn you.
Well, well, ladies. It seems you were right.
Let go of me. Let go of me at once.
Oh, Robin, why did you do it?
I'm not saying anything until I've seen a solicitor.
You can see who you want, but you've just been caught in the commission of a very serious crime. You're going down, son. And I'm afraid that's that.
The entire case turned on Mr. Pepper's glass eye.
Another glass of champagne, Mrs. Shelton?
Oh, why not? It isn't every day that Langston Library celebrates its 100th birthday.
I do wish you wouldn't interrupt, Margaret. I was trying to talk.
Sorry, dear.
Mr. Pepper's eye was knocked from his head when he was struck from behind.
Was it, by Jove? I didn't know that.
No one did, Major Blewett. It wasn't mentioned in any of the papers or on the news.
But Robin referred to it when he visited the library.
Anyone who can hit a man hard enough to knock out his glass eye must be pretty violent.
You were there, Major Blewett. You must have heard him.
Pardon?
It seemed odd at the time, but it wasn't until the middle of the night that I realized there was only one way he could have known about it.
Yes? He must have been present at the scene of the crime.
Thank you, Margaret. I was about to say that.
We didn't want to believe it, of course. We were both rather fond of him. But we knew that we had to bring him to justice.
And that's when I got involved.
By persuading Colin to blackmail him, we knew we'd force his hand. Unfortunately, Margaret failed to spot the flaw in our plan, and Colin ended up with 17 stitches.
It was worth it. At least I don't have to live in Burnham anymore.
Oh, you have both shown enormous courage, ladies. Miss Marple would be proud.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Shelton.
Oh, but there is one thing I don't understand. Why did Robin murder Mr. Pepper in the first place,
This is the book that caused all the trouble.
The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie.
It's the first edition. Robin told us where to find it.
Oh, he's made a full confession, then.
I think he was rather glad to unburden himself.
The book isn't in very good condition, is it? Who'd lay out money for something so tatty?
Someone who wanted to complete his collection, I suppose. Robin was going to steal it and let Mr. Pepper sell it on.
But why did he break into the library in the middle of the night? He could easily have sneaked it out whilst we weren't looking.
Well, that was his original plan, but he was double-crossed. As he walked home from the pub, he saw Mr. Pepper forcing open one of the library windows and climbing inside.
There you are, my beauty. Come to Daddy.
Angry, and somewhat the worse for drink, Robin climbed in after him.
What the hell do you think you're doing, eh? We had a deal.
Oh, back off, boy. This library owes me money, and I'm not sharing.
There was a struggle, which Mr. Pepper appeared to win, but as he bent to retrieve the book, Robin struck him over the head with his own crowbar. A single blow in the wrong place can be fatal, and Pepper was unlucky. When he realised what he'd done, Robin picked up the book and the murder weapon and took to his heels. But he couldn't run fast enough to escape the consequences of his actions. And, thanks to you, he'll be paying for them for the rest of his life.
Oh, what a terrible business.
Look on the bright side, ladies. You saved an innocent man and helped bring a guilty one to justice.
Well, that's some consolation, I suppose, but I think we'll be leaving the detective work to Miss Marple from now on.
I can't say I'm sorry to hear it.
We've already decided which of her novels we'll be reading next.
Oh, yes? And which one is that?
Oh, come along, Sergeant. I'm surprised you need ask. In the circumstances, only one title seems appropriate. What else could it be but The Body in the Library?
In Murder by the Book by Stephen Sheridan, Dorothy was played by Mary Wimbush and Margaret by Doreen Mantle. Mr. Pepper was played by John Evitts, Colin Leighton Pugh, Robin Alex Hutchinson, Mrs. Shelton, Elizabeth Morgan, Inspector Cornish, Trevor Nichols, and Sergeant McBride, Chris Stanton. Other parts were played by members of the cast.